Three, two, one, recording. And recording with two gentlemen and a faggot. I am the faggot. And I'm doing this podcast, and then I'm not resuming podcast until next week. Not that anybody gives a shit, not that anybody's listening that cares. And
you fucking say that shit. All right. So on a semi-regular basis,
Hey.
I walk into my living room and I find my wife listening to your podcast. So somebody fucking listens.
well, hey, we'll take it. Well, it sure wasn't Gavrila Princip, which is man, I've been watching so many World War I interviews lately.
Yeah. I've noticed that.
Dude, that's just I got really into World War II interviews, but I've also kind of grown up with them. I remember I still have met, World War II veterans, but there's just something, and not that there's some fucking oppression Olympics like we live in right now, but there's just a whole different level of true, truly the definition war is hell of World War I.
Oh man, the stuff that happened in World War I is pretty fucking ridiculous, all things considered. People whine, and I mean this unironically, whine, and dear all of you ANCAPs out there, I'm talking to you. Oh my God, the U.S. military entered the city and there were 4 civilian casualties. World War II vets are over there like, we just bombed that shit.
They're like, Jesus, you guys only took out 4 million? It's
right? No. Yeah, only 4 million. Yeah, they killed 4 million. U.S. military's over there right now, like, bro, it was 4 people and 3 of them were holding guns.
Yeah.
Nighttime bombing. I don't know if it's a factory. Close enough. Full send. Let's go.
World War II is like, are those school lights or factory lights? And they're like, either way, lights out.
You know what? I don't really care. They look to be about 4 kilometers out, and we do have an artillery battery with us.
People can't grow up to work in a factory if you bomb the schools. So,
there you go. There you go. Total war. But,
denying the enemy assets.
Have either of you guys listened to I might honestly have to re-listen to it, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History on World War I? It is. So he has
everyone and their brother recommends this to me, and I
haven't seen it either.
Legitimately better than any audiobook I've ever listened to. And you guys know how much I fanboy over. Hands down, no hyperbole. It's a 6-part series. It's like 4 hours each, and I know it sounds insane. An hour into the first one, you won't be able to stop it. It turns your brain inside out. I've been watching shell shock videos and stuff. And just like these guys, and it's just, you hear them talking and they're like, we went, watching an interview with one guy who's 112. He died in 2005, but he was like, we were getting ready to go over the top, and the officer walked down behind us, blew the whistle. Anyone who hesitated, shot on the spot. We went over immediately. An artillery shell killed 3 of my friends. We kept moving forward, and I saw one of my friends with no arm, no leg, and his intestines out. And he was screaming for his mother, and he asked me to shoot him, and I was about to, but then he caught a bullet. And then and he goes, and then we kept going forward, and another friend of mine, no left arm, no left leg, and his left eye was hanging out of his head, pulsing and bleeding, and he was screaming mother. So I shot him in the head, and he goes, I had to do it. And it was his friend. And he's like, and then we moved forward, and it was just like, what? And it's like, we moved the trenches forward. After another 6 weeks of this, we moved the trench forward 4 feet. And you're just like, there's no clearing the bodies. He's like, our friends would, you can't go out and get them or you'll join them. So there's just piles of bodies in different stages of decay. And we dig trenches and there'd be bodies in there. So you'd hit them and all the pus and gas would explode. And the lice were breeding on us. There was nothing left to do. And he's like, so you just keep moving forward and you're just listening to this. And it's like, war is hell. I've heard it so many times, but this is some Revelations, Dante's Inferno. It's not just war is hell. All your friends die.
Rats and plague and
intestines. I hate when you're trying to go to sleep and you put your head on the mud and you hit something hard and you go, oh, that's the skull of Bill. There's Bill. And then your other friend's like, yeah, I got Bill's foot over here. And you're just listening to this and like, you just like your brain starts to just like twitch. It's so on that note, I now kind of realize just how distasteful this hoodie is.
You know, all those World War II sergeant majors and colonels and things and generals that were all a bunch of hard asses. Where do you think they came from?
Yeah, I mean Truman, Patton. Yeah, right. Yep. They all. Truman was in artillery in World War I. Truman lied to get into World War I.
And this is the thing, right? You want to know how it is that we get Millie? Millie did not do that when he was a young lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
Millie was out there like, well, war means being in garrison and uniform inspections, right? Because that's how long he's been in the military. Is that maybe if you're really lucky, Millie saw what, Gulf War?
Yeah, I mean, dude, Truman's which is kind of hilarious because it's like honorable to like lie to get into war, right? You want to go serve, but there is a little irony with Truman where it's like, well, what did he want to do? He wanted to do artillery, and it's like, all right, what'd you have to lie about? Well, his vision was bad, and it's like, hold on, like he memorized the chart. They're like, what does this say? And he was like XZ114, and they're like, what's the next thing? And he knew it all, and they're like. So then they like switched it out, and it would be like, what is the letter on David's hat? And he'd be like 7. And they're like, fuck it, he's got the spirit. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know. I've been just, but seriously, you guys need to watch it or listen to that thing. It's legitimately, it's the best thing I've ever listened to. I listened to it like 3 years ago.
It is some good stuff, and what reminded me of, I've been listening to some Mac V Sog stuff, and when the guy, one you linked me where they were talking about the rats. Well, one of the Mac V Sog guys I was listening to recently, he was talking about the same kind of problem with rats in Vietnam and how the VC would basically and the NVA were really good at gathering their dead and burying their dead somewhere. And next thing you know, you have these freaking tigers roaming around the jungle with the taste for human flesh. And I'm like, holy shit, dude.
Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah. My uncle Tim, rest in peace, died in 2013. His best friend was eaten by a tiger in Vietnam. Straight up.
Yeah, like, you don't hear about that shit so much.
Not his corpse. Like that was the KIA.
Yeah, and they were talking about some dude got dragged out of camp at night, and they had to wait till first light to go find him. I'm like, holy goddamn, that's some wild stuff, man.
What are you gonna do? Wander through the jungle where you're surrounded by VC? Oh, and there's a tiger.
Yeah, I mean, probably set off your own trip play or some shit too while you're doing it.
I mean, Jesus, it bends them. Another thing was like when they're in like they're like underground. Like bunkers that they built in, like that's how long the trench warfare was. Is like these things started to get like developed, like almost like a community, like different tiers. And if an officer was moved up to the front, they'd like bring in like wood, so you'd have like wooden walls and a lamp and shit. Like, but they're talking about like a gas shell would hit and the gas was heavier than air, so it would like fluid, it would just go down, and they'd all be down in like the big no OSHA or fire marshal shit, just a huge room with bunk beds, and the gas would start to seep in and someone would scream like gas, and not everyone had their gas mask, so guys would be wrestling with each other to take a gas mask. And I mean the symbolism of it is so insane because they had the candles next to all the bunk beds, and as the gas would move from like the stairwell entrance to the back of the room, it would snuff out the candles. So there was just this wall of darkness coming towards you. And some guys realized that they weren't getting out. And they would actually jump down to the floor so they could just inhale it as quickly as possible. Whereas other guys were like, and you're just listening to this and you're like I don't, not even in like the classic, like kids these days are so weak. Like that's a given. Like not even in comparison, just listening to it. You're like, I mean, it starts to like twist the mind.
Yeah, that's like, the kind of psychology shit that you start hearing about, especially when from the dive community, when you start hearing about like cave divers and tech divers and how people react when they basically know they're fucked. And you have some people that, I know a few people that have I'm one of them. I have a 44 Magnum Powerhead, and if something goes really wrong and I'm really stuck somewhere, there's a really simple way to end the problem.
Yeah.
And then there are other guys that'll freak out and they'll, gear rejection, start stripping off all their stuff and basically just try to inhale the water, get it over and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of weird ass psychology that comes into play when you kind of know you're in that situation.
Well, this podcast is off to a cheery start,
isn't it?
Just
so
dark subjects. Yeah.
It's funny in the world of war discussions, you see this all the time, right? And I've listened to so much SOG stuff at this point, I don't even know where the hell this came from. But the story is probably familiar because almost everybody tells it. Is there was a SOG team out in the middle of Vietnam, and they get into a gunfight with the VC, and as soon as they do, whoever their ranking guy is hits the ground and starts praying, right? And everybody else is like, not really the time, bro. And so this gunfight carries on for a while, and they can't get out, and there's like a whole regiment tracking down, it sounds like 6 guys, give or take, right? Including the Vietnamese they've got with them. It's like 6 guys. And so they're running and gunning, and they're carrying this dude, right? Like every time they get up and move, someone literally picks him up and runs with him. And they finally get away from the gunfight for a little bit, and they find a road, and the guy tries to pull rank and goes, well, I'm the ranking guy, so we're going down the road. And everyone in this team is like,
fuck off,
bro. Like 2 minutes ago, you couldn't even pick up a gun. And what you don't do in a recon team is walk down roads. It's like rule number 1. What is wrong with you? And so finally they just, all right, fine, I guess we're walking down the road. And so they all start fanning out into the trees, and he's just literally walking down the road. And they turn a corner, and sure enough, there's a giant line of EC, and they rip half his face off with an AK-47. Just that fast, because you can't make good decisions under serious pressure.
Jesus, man, it's
talk about a bad place and time to be trying to pull rank, because like this reminds me of the story of my great uncle who fought in World War II, Korea and Vietnam, and throughout his time in Vietnam they kept trying to make him an officer, and he would turn it down every time because he was afraid he was going to get shot by his own men. And it's just that used to be an American tradition.
Oh yeah, no, frag them. Yeah, it's
so funny enough, I know quite a bit of British people who, and one of them not too long ago was like, Don, is this thing of shooting lieutenants in the back in Vietnam real? And I went, yeah. I mean, it's not as prolific as everybody likes to make it out.
Yeah,
to be,
but
hey,
it was
definitely happened.
It was prolific enough that it gained a term. Right.
90-day wonder.
All right. If I interview Elon Musk once, you go, did you see Tommy interviewed Musk? If you're Joe Rogan, you go, oh yeah, there's a new Musk episode. You know it's an Elon. Fragging happened enough that it wasn't like, did you hear about the time? It's right. Fragging. It's a phenomena where.
Do you not know the term 90-day wonder?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, so this is the Vietnam term for killing lieutenants.
Oh,
right.
I always thought it was fragging.
So it is, right? They look around. There's 47 military terms for every single thing that you'll ever do, right? But the premise of 90-day wonder is you got 90 days of training, and it's a wonder if you survive 90 days in Vietnam.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I was so. As you guys know, I love Tim Dillon, and he always talks about this book called The Franklin Scandal. And finally, after like 2 years, I bought the book. I haven't listened to it yet, but he interviewed the guy, Nick Bryant, who's this like esteemed BBC author, and about these like child sex slave rings, not Pizzagate. Nick Bryant's the first to say he's like Pizzagate.
Jimmy Savile kind of, that kind of stuff.
He's like Pizzagate's retarded.
The
Finders, though, that's what started with it, was the Finders. And for everyone listening, the Finders was a cult where these guys were arrested, and the FBI started investigating it. It was these guys with like a warehouse full of kids, and there's all these weird pictures of the kids sitting with like severed goats' heads and stuff. And then the CIA shut it down because, quote, it was an internal affair, which, I mean, if you're going to shut it down, at least say national security. Don't say it was an internal affair. Tommy, we found a hooker. All right, this is a Tommy issue. Right. You'd be like, dude, just what? Just at least put up crime tape and use. But
it's normal. I mean, if you're familiar with the term NatSec Democrat, that's just their standard operating procedure.
So the finders started, so the CIA shut it down. And as Nick Bryant dug deeper and deeper, they were finding that, and it's not to in any way, but when you first hear about like stuff like satanic sacrifice, you're like, this is Pizzagate. And then when you look deeper in it, you go, oh, this maybe sounds like disinfo, right? Like the idea, if you take Bob Lazar for real, like the idea that, oh, they told him it was an alien saucer. So if he eventually leaked it, they'd know where the leak came from. They probably told someone else it was a Russian one, probably told someone else it was a fossil. And so they can track it, right? They can track who leaked it. And so it's also discredited, right? Just like the Area 51 pilots, when they first started using like German engineering to like build American jet engines, and other pilots in the Nevada test site would see them. This is from Manny Jacobson's Area 51. When other test pilots would see them and they'd see this crazy craft with no propeller and it had smoke coming out of the back and it was faster and louder. Well, the pilots also wore gorilla masks that they would get from California. And so when the pilots would regale the stories of it was an incredible craft that had no propeller and it was loud and it was doing, unimaginable stunts, and get this, a gorilla was flying it. Well, it discredits it, right? So I say all that to say, but what stems from like MK Ultra was, I had on Norman Ohler, talked about Blitzed, and he's going to write another book about like the origins of MK Ultra. MK, mind control, its origins are of course the Nazis, but they were giving like, David, talk about a terrible place to take ayahuasca. They're giving ayahuasca to people in the I never knew this. They're giving ayahuasca to people in the concentration camps.
Yeah.
And he was saying like they would show them these horrors of just, it's bad enough to be in a concentration camp. Imagine being on ayahuasca. Well, they said their brains would like splinter. And, I can, Don, I'm sure you can with, combat experience. When I found out my brother committed suicide, I cried for about an hour. And then I didn't cry again for about 8 months. And then I crashed and burned. And then I started doing a ton of drugs. But in hindsight, I can see where I just dissociated. I was just like, I was very at peace. And I remember my parents, my dad will say it now, I'd be like, I remember like when I first realized that like everyone else was grieving. And Tom, you were like, well, it's okay. This is life. It was like, oh, Jesus. Like my head was in the sand. So I'm going on this whole tangent to say there was like a science to, can we fracture people's mind? What if
Sidney Gottlieb?
Yeah. What if we can go farther than a brother committing suicide? What if you can dissociate so much that we can create a Manchurian candidate? So Nick Bryant was interviewing people who said in Omaha, like in the woods, they were at, and it's not, oh, they're Satanists. No, it was rather they were trying, not to, here I am defending them. They were trying to be the most evil thing. They're trying to, so they were like dressed in black in barns, like making kids slaughter animals and then like crucifying and burning the kids so that the ones that witnessed it, their minds would be fractured. And I don't know why I felt the need to go from World War I to this. I didn't really, there was no arc. That was just that. There's just a fun fact.
Yeah, there's a big arc here.
Yeah, there's a big arc, and a lot of this can be, if you look at Sidney Gottlieb's work, Poisoner in Chief, who was, he was the pioneer of MK Ultra and all this, and what we're talking about, traumatic, traumatic based mind control, and what we're talking about. I know we've had this discussion a little bit before, but what ayahuasca or like a DMT trip really is it's a tool. All right. It's not, necessarily some, it's just going to send you off to the right thing. It depends on who uses it. Now, if you have a bunch of positive reinforcement and a bunch of people who are going to be, helping you want to rewire your brain for going in a new direction in life, say you built up a bunch of habits, regimes and whatnot, and you need to go in another direction, it can be very positive for that. Same way you could use, a mixture of LSD, ayahuasca. If you really wanted to be dirty, you could get someone addicted to heroin and then and then get them off of heroin when they start going through withdrawals. Then you give them psychedelics. So on top of the terrible ass withdrawals of say an opioid like heroin, they're also tripping balls on ayahuasca or iboga or something like that. And next thing you know, you're going to have a person that, is at the very least, if you the whole science of making the Manchurian candidate never quite worked out the way they wanted to. They kind of went more towards electrodes and that kind of stuff to go down that route. But at the end of the day, the fact that you could take a person and just disable them mentally and break them to the point where they are, you're not killing them, but they're never going to be an intellectual threat ever again. This was the kind of thing that happened. There were people that reported some guy with a club foot coming into a bar, Sidney Gottlieb with a club foot, and putting some LSD in some guy's drink. And this dude had like a psychic, just a mental breakdown, lost his job, went, just absolutely crazy for years. And it wasn't until I believe some family member was hearing about Sidney Gottlieb and all this and was like, hey, this sounds like this club foot guy that came in. And this is all documented stuff that's out there. And it's all, as you're saying, when you don't want something out there, there's so much open source intelligence out there. It's a security through obscurity. It's like when Dale's talking about some, busting into a nuclear facility and he goes, this isn't secret. I read it on the fucking internet. Well, it's because there's so much shit on the internet. The only way that you can actually keep things secret is to pump out so much other disinformation that you don't know what's real. And that's post-truth politics.
Well, this is... Let's not skip over the brainwashing quotient of this, because that, I mean, let's be honest, that is the through line of all of this, right? And understand that this is basically all of society at this point, right? So it's nearly impossible to distribute enough LSD, ayahuasca, whatever psychedelic you want to go with, to cover everybody. But it turns out the lessons of this have been really helpful in the world of mass brainwashing. And if you don't believe that, probably nearly everybody knows a Marine. And you know what everyone I know who has ever met a Marine says? Yeah, man, I knew him. And then like when he got back out of boot camp, he was just different. That's not by accident, right? That's not like, oh man, you go over there and they stamp you with an Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, and that's it. You're different, right? No, that's not it. You do a lot. There is nothing in this world that you do in boot camp that you don't say 3 times. Nothing. Think that's an accident? Anybody? No. Right?
Socrates,
yeah, it's been almost 15 years since I went to boot camp, right? And yet the moment that I needed to talk about something like this to anybody about 2 weeks ago, I went for all my vets out there. Ready, front, right? Cover. And everybody who was ever in boot camp went cover to the front, a line to the right, cover to the front, a line to the right, cover to the front, a line to the right. And you know why they did that? Because that's how drill commands work. That's what you do in boot camp. You say it 3 times over so that you know, probably until I am dead, right? And these very simple little things. Go listen to radio commercials. Go listen to TV commercials. Right?
Alex Jones screaming band.video 3 times every time he does it. Yep. It goes back to Socrates.
Exactly. None of this is by accident, right? And why is it that you do things repetitively in school? Same reason, right? If you do something 3 times, you're more likely to remember it in the short to midterm. If you do something 3 times, multiple times, you are more likely to remember it forever. There's a reason that your multiplication tables. You unironically brainwash them into yourself. That's how they got there. And we know this. And start looking at schools. You can, for everybody who's running around going, oh my God, CRT, this is terrible. Look at what they're doing. They are doing all of the things we know that make humans remember this forever, incorporate it into their own lives, et cetera, et cetera. This all stems from all of those times that we did things like going to war. Because by the way, there's 13 general orders for the United States Marine Corps. All that stuff you were talking about, when gas happens, make no mistake. You said, and somebody shouts gas, and I went, gas, 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 right? Because that's what you do. And that is the answer. Where did all this come from? We went, when this happens, one, we need to have people who stop fighting each other for their gas masks, right? We need to have people who have gear accountability, because you better believe anyone who's ever been in the military can tell you endless hours of stories of gear accountability. We need to have people who don't immediately shed their gear when something happens, when they get into a fight, right? And this is why there are high stress things in boot camp, specifically for people who have never lived a high stress life, right? For anybody who, lived in Southside Chicago and was shot at every couple of weeks, they're like, high stress, lol, whatever. But that's not the vast majority of Americans, right? They actively go out of their way to stress you out because they need to find out what you do when you get stressed out. And having known guys that were drill instructors, You get people on ranges who, once shots start flying, not even in their direction, rip their helmet off and start smashing it into their face. And they go, this guy needs to go, like right now. We can't have this guy, because it's more stress than you've ever had applied to you in your life. And what happens to you when you stress the fuck out is really important if we're going to give you a machine gun. So, understand that most of society is structured around the stuff you're talking about, just in much smaller ways than give everybody LSD.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just an initiation tool. And that's one of the things, like when you're one of the things that they're looking for, if you go to say an actual well-run ayahuasca ceremony, is they're looking for that exact same thing. The kind of person that's going to, take the ayahuasca and freak out and start, pounding their face or running off away from the fire into the dark woods or something, and the last thing you want is ayahuasca Rambo running out in the woods or something like that. And and it's because ayahuasca or these kind of things are just used as a way of remapping the brain, remapping pathways, and as tools of initiation. And it can be used for a good thing. It can be used for a bad thing.
Jesus. And I mean, but like ayahuasca being a tool, right? These things are all tools, right? It's the first time I took psychedelics was the day after I graduated college. There was like a lot of negative. Like I was like, am I going to move home? Do I want to go to medical school? My brother was still alive, but like I knew something was wrong. Just started dating a girl, like first serious girlfriend. And I was like, I want to get to like the bottom of this. I'm going to do psychedelics. It was the first time I ever did it, but I did it with like my best friend. We went up into the woods. It was like a sunny day in December. There's no one else around. It's very positive. He had done it before. He was kind of like my guide. And it was we didn't go super deep, but I went in and I did kind of, it's like that feeling when you're picking at like a knot on some like old shorts or something, and then you finally get it and start to loosen it up and you're like, I got it. Like that's what it was like. Or, you can give it to someone at Dachau. Now, even this though, repetition, right? I mean, it's not all evil, right? It's not all repetition is evil. Like every day I get up, first thing I do is I make my bed. Next thing I do is I have my workout. I already put them out from the night before. It's so that there's no like barrier to going into the gym. I can't find my pants. I have it all right there. I get dressed and I immediately walk to the gym, do a mile, do some weights, come back, immediately take a cold shower. I don't fucking think about how much I don't want to do it. I just walk in, cold shower, meditate, podcast. And to me, it's this streamlined thing where, if you wake up every day and if you wake up at a different time, you're doing a different thing. It's a lot harder to do a podcast every day versus I've streamlined it to such a thing to where it's like gas and Don's like gas, gas, gas. To me, it's like alarm goes off and it's get up, make bed, do this thing. And by the time I realize I'm tired or I'm out of it, the podcast is already finished and it's up.
Right.
And it's so structure it like ayahuasca, it can be a very good tool, or it can be wear your mask 6 feet apart, take another booster shot, wear your mask, disinformation, white supremacist, MAGA hat, kill them all, another booster shot.
Lizzie Borden with an axe killed her parents before he waxed. I mean, look, axes cut down most of the trees that built all of Western society. They also killed Lizzie Borden's parents. What you do with a tool has a lot more to do with
the guy that invented Zyklon B also didn't he produce like that? He produced like fertilizer that like greatly increased humanity's ability for crop yields, but he was also made Zyklon B. I don't think he knew what he was doing or knew what the use was.
Pest control and Malthusian thought just go hand in hand eventually,
Exactly. There was another guy. The guy that I think he did something. I'm gonna butcher this, but there's some terrible. I don't think it's the same guy, but it was some terrible thing about like something with engines or fuel production. But this guy greatly increased like fuel, basically our ability to like extract gas, and I cannot remember the name, but he led to just excess fuel. So we're burning it and everything, right? So just polluting the atmosphere. And then he did something else that also affected, and because I don't know it like the back of my hand, it just sounds stupid, but he did a second thing which greatly increased pollution in the world. And he finally died because he was in the hospital, he was injured, and he was in one of those like sling sets, like a terrible car crash or something. And he was in, all these pulleys and levers, like some steampunk shit. And he ended up falling out of his bed and choking himself. And he died. but it's like the terrible irony of like he did everything he could in his life to destroy the atmosphere, and ultimately like he was as asphyxiated. But because this is the importance of staying well read, because I don't know all the exact examples, it doesn't work at all. It's like there's a guy who gas, fire, and Don's just like let him run, let him get it out of his system, Tom.
You know who it sounds like you're talking about, and I can't speak to his death, but it sounds like you're talking about Rockefeller.
No, I don't think it was him. No, right, yeah, right, Rockefeller, yeah,
because that's other than the end there. That's the story of Rockefeller.
Yeah, just on a war with on a kind of side note, I've been listening to this book, The Arms of Krupp, right? Krupp.
That sounds familiar. Who wrote that?
I don't know. I think I sent it to you, David. I haven't finished it yet. It's like 50 fucking hours, but it's from it's just the Krupp dynasty, like the German war machine from like the 1600s to, till their end. No, they merged with another company. But it's what company they merged with another company. I think Tyson, not Tyson Chicken, Tyson, like TYS. Now it's Tyson Krupp. But for like 400 years, it was just this German war machine. Krupp Arms. They built World War II artillery, World War I artillery, Autobahn, all of it, all Krupp. It was the sole military industrial company, and
gotcha.
Just dynasties and dynasties. I mean, they owned like the biggest castle in Germany, and they had all the land, and it was all about like increase. I mean, in World War I, they were building all the artillery, and then they also bought up all the barbed wire companies because they're like, this is useful too. And like
them and Junkers.
Oh yeah, no, they were the OG military industrial complex, and but they're just this like archetype of Germans. Like it sounds. When you see something like the film, like the double take, and you're like, oh, that's so old. But there was a time when that was like a new thing in acting, like the double take. And then you look back at like an old film and you're like, oh, they're doing the double take. And you have to be like, no, that was the original. When you're listening to this book, because I can't read, when you're listening to this book, you hear all these German stereotypes and you're almost like, this just sounds like it's cheesy. And then you realize, no, this is the thing. And the German stereotypes came, from like, I wake up at this time, breakfast at this time at 8:15, middle of a conversation. He could be meeting with like an ambassador from Britain, like 8:15 a.m. Breakfast is finished. He gets up and just walks away. Now you can follow him and continue the conversation, but it goes on and on, even to where he had his funeral timed. He was like, the funeral will go on no longer than 21 minutes. And it was like, but he's going on, and he'd raise his kids. And, even like immediately married, like 9 months to the day from his wedding night, he had his first kid. And then 9 months to the day from that, he had a second kid. It was just no wasting time. But he had this kid who he taught him just like the brutality of how efficient you have to be. Just like no love. He's like, if you want your hug, you will get your hug at this time. Otherwise, father will not give you hugs. And it was just from
German. Yes.
Yeah. And he talks about, as he's telling, he's like, you will inherit this like dynasty. And he's like, if you run this incorrectly, if you don't keep you can really like way 2 centuries before the Nazis about documentation, numbers, just like record all of it. He's like, if you run this country poorly, and this is like a secondhand account from like the wife. She's like watching him. And he's like, it's this, just German guy, like yelling at his like 15-year-old son. He's like, if you run this company poorly, I will rise up from I will rise up from hell, and I will not hurt you. I will come take this company back over and fire you, which to the kid is a worse threat than death. And so, but there's this imagery of what this wife is explaining of this guy, this stuffy German dude. And he's like, I will rise up from hell. And then like the son said something where it was like a smart quip, and he's like, well, father, like you better have your papers to prove this is your company. And the mom said for a split moment, like the father smiled and was like, I have raised a machine. But it just made me think of like Dwight from The Office or something. Just the kid's like, you better show your papers. And the father, for just a moment, he just smiles and he's like, I've raised an automaton. And there's like, he only allotted like 4 seconds of pride, but he was just like, this is my son. Again, nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
If you read about like, Frederick the Great and like specifically Frederick the Great's instructions to his generals and whatnot, and you look at his relationship with his father, who beat the crap out of him and everything, and just the mentality of Prussian militantism in general. I mean, it wasn't, that was what inspired just about everything else around for a good period of time. I mean, now everyone's talking about, unrestricted warfare and Sun Tzu, but Clausewitz was, what everyone fucking quoted for the longest fucking time, Sun Tzu be damned.
If it wasn't for the whole fucking genocide.
By the way, hold on a minute, because I got to make my standard bitch here.
I don't care.
And I need to make it as often as humanly possible. Stop saying 5th generational unrestricted warfare. Stop it.
Okay.
If you are quoting someone who is 2,000 to 5,000 years in the past, it's not new. Stop it.
It is very dark gray zone, hybrid, asymmetric, unrestricted 5th generation, 20th generation.
You just got to drop all the lines. You're like, guys, this is unparalleled thinking. This is internet 2.0. This is a web development, a cyber diametric. And you're like, well, no, it's to quote the great Dr. Dale Comstock. It always comes down to the man with the gun.
Well, that too. And it's the fact that, not just like the Russian idea of subverting languages until the language doesn't exist anymore. The Bolsheviks come to power and all of a sudden letters from the alphabet get deleted. But it's also the fact that, as I've heard Don talk about before, like every officer having to, write some new concept, or, I believe the example you used was like, we're going to bring back horse is in cavalry or something, because that's how they make their name. I mean, you go and you read all these papers from, IR scholars and whatnot. Well, you can't just say, well, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, said this. No, you got to make a brand. You got to make a name for yourself or some stuff, and to put yourself into some policy position pipeline. And so, you got to come up with some shit like very dark gray, hybrid, gray zone, asymmetric, generation. You got to do that, and it just keeps stacking on. It just stacks on top of each other until the entire fucking language changes.
And hey, I am the most guilty of all of this. So Don, I'd like to apologize, because I've interviewed 2 authors. I'm always like, I talked to this guy. He talked about something called unrestricted warfare, and you could just see the people's eyes just glazing. Like I had on Gordon Chang, like a China expert, and I was like, yeah, unrestricted warfare, and you can almost see him like, kid, like I wrote the book on like China's warfare. Like literally, I talk about this on. I told my parents, I'm like, I'm having on a guy named Gordon Chang. And they're like, oh yeah, no, we've been watching him forever. And here I am. I'm like, Mr. Chang, have you heard of the Chinese Communist Party?
Right. No, like, tell me more.
It's like, tell me more, Tom. He's just like, Jesus. But
Now see, this is the different. This is, oh God, you want to talk about the as so many people have popularly decided to do all of a sudden, why we have all this rot in the military, right? Go watch. Oh my God, what is going on over here?
I'm putting on. I was going to put on some gay rainbow lights.
Go watch any of those discussions with Dale. Go watch. What the hell's his name? Navy SEAL. That's Willink, right?
Jocko Willink.
Yeah. And then go listen to Mattis. Right. And what you will find, despite that Mattis is a horrifically bad example once he gets into politics, but while he was fighting, what you will find out of all of these people is, now we read this before. We read these books. These people knew. I don't need to tell you what to do when you're getting flanked, because 75 generals before me have all come and said, hey, here's what you do when you get flanked, and each one along the path goes, this is what we learned from the prior guy, this is what we learned from this prior guy, this is what we learned from this prior guy. And what you don't find in any of those discussions is people going, I am the one who is here to teach you what to do when you got flanked. Now consider for a minute Millie, right?
A Millie.
He is not that guy. He is that douchebag officer who is like, so what you need to do when you get flanked is the Millie maneuver. Like, what the fuck is the Millie maneuver?
More like the Millie pullout specifically.
Mm-hmm. It's right. And this is the difference in caliber of person you get. To Dale, and I probably shouldn't speak for Dale, but I can almost bet money, nearly willing to bet a testicle, that if it is going to save Dale's life and the guys that he's with, he honestly doesn't care who invented it as long as it works. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the thing you will find all over the place is it functional? Do I need to brand my name to it? No.
Oh man.
And then you will find the exact opposite of this, right? The officer who was like, so I have invented cavalry. Like, bro, you live in the 21st century. You didn't invent shit.
We need an assessment to put together a committee to come up with nomenclature for this thing.
I was just thinking, because you're right. Someone like Dale doesn't give a fuck, because it's someone where it's like, this is what we're doing. I don't, right? It's, again, Mattis, maybe not the best when he went to politics, but like early on when he was in like those early like Senate hearings for his confirmation or some shit. And someone's like, what do you think about like trans women or men who, share beds with other men? And Mattis was like, my job, he was like, my job is to build the most lethal fighting force in the world. It is not my concern what two consenting adults do. Just very much like, I don't give a fuck. If they're the best sniper in the world, but they're a trans girl, I don't care. You said the best sniper in the world, put him in. But the beauty is right. Well, what's the antithesis? What's our society right now? It all matters who invented it, where it came from. What we need to start doing is all these things, right? Bernoulli's principle about like air or fluids flowing or some shit, or I don't know, like the Bessemer process, right? Like melting and smelting. We need to start finding these things, and then kind of like 4chan, we need to start these like fake campaigns about how people shouldn't follow them anymore because they were established by white men, like Newton's 3 laws. Like, I think we should void those because Newton was a white male, and just see what happens.
You're spot on, because the answer to this is rhetoric.
Let me explain to you what happens, because we already know, right? You see, and there's a series that is probably still somewhere on the internet, and you can find it, called Hidden Colors. And what Hidden Colors is a bunch of black supremacists, unironically, go around rewriting history, talking about how any invention that has ever been attributed to a white male was actually invented by this black guy that he knew, right? And they go to unrealistic lengths to find some black guy that he knew and then just attribute everything to him, right? And I don't know who it is that they think taught Newton everything, but then again, these people don't matter. But the moment you say, well, it wasn't invented by a white male, I promise you these people will show up out of nowhere and go, see, we agree, it was invented by this black guy.
Well, Isaac Newton was obsessed with the emerald tablets, and you see, because he was obsessed with the emerald tablets of Thoth and supposedly had one, clearly a black Egyptian god of wisdom, because the Egyptians are black, came in and taught him everything that he needed to know about gravity. But
this is basically the level of gymnastics that we are actually talking.
And this is why, like, I try not to get caught up on like unrestricted 5th generation warfare, because I just look at it all as rhetoric and marketing.
Unrestricted nano swarms, and internet 5.0. It's economic warfare.
Yeah, like I could tell someone, like if I tell a teenage kid, all right, to read, what is it, the Book of Five Rings and Sun Tzu's The Art of War, they're going to look at me and they're going to go, oh, all right, boomer, or something like that. But if I throw in some fancy buzzwords and say, here's this unrestricted warfare book, they might be a little bit more likely to read it. Now, do I care? Would I prefer that they like actually learn the history and learn where it came from and do the whole thing? Yeah, I would prefer that. But at the end of the day, I just want to move the needle and get people doing anything to move the needle. So for me, it's like, it's all marketing and rhetoric. What's going to get people to move a needle?
We're getting squarely into my arena here.
Wait, hold on. Wait, real quick though. Have you guys ever seen those all those like videos? I love them. People put out these like 10-hour videos. They're like full accounts on them on YouTube, and it will be like like you're listening to oldies in another room. It'll be like I don't know, like a Disney animation from the 40s of like, someone sleeping, and it's like you're a kid, like your parents are downstairs, they're having a party, and you can hear like, I don't know, whatever 40s 50s jazz music playing, and it's raining outside or something, and it's like, it's 1948, like you're falling asleep in your bunk bed with your little brother, your parents are listening to oldies downstairs, and it's raining, and the whole thing will be like, you can hear the pitter patter, and it's kind of muffled, and you'll hear like whatever, and it's very, very relaxing, and they'll do them from all different generations. It'll, whatever. Like for me, I remember falling asleep, and like I remember being in Arkansas, And
real
like
quick does not mean to me what it means to Tommy.
Eat a dick. And I remember like there's like my dad listening to Eric Clapton, and so if like Eric Clapton is one thing, if I hear like muffled Eric Clapton, it's like it kind of brings me back to like being a kid. I just went out to turn on the air conditioner. I didn't realize it's raining out, so it's raining, and all these sound tiles, and I'm in a different room. It's muffled, but it wasn't jazz.
We're definitely going somewhere here.
It's Don the Pleb talking about 5th generational warfare. And I just imagine like in 50 years, if there will be like an ASMR channel, it'll be like, it's raining, you're in another room, and you hear Don the Pleb yelling about 5th generational warfare. And it's just pitter, patter, pitter. And this is, and you just hear it like, sorry. Back to you, Don.
So outside of that massive digression,
outside of that faggotry,
the marketing thing, right? So I generally approve of the principle, right? If we could get more people interested in what's going on, hooray. And people do get more interested in the term 5th generational unrestricted warfare, right? Economic, it's a war on your mind. They're turning the freaking frogs gay. Right, and that's
you need hooks.
Exciting, and that's all well and good, and it's very exciting. The thing that I find this actually creates, though, is not a serious interest in what we're talking about. What it creates is this barrier to entry this is brand new, and it has taken these people a lifetime to understand, and I don't really get it. And maybe, if we're lucky, creates some followership. And the problem with that is, in 5th generational unrestricted warfare, you cut the head off the snake of the problem, and then you're done, right? And this is the problem that everybody, in my favorite phrasing, to the right of Mao has, is we want a big white knight on a big white horse with a big white lance to come in and save the goddamn day. And do you know how you deal with a big white knight on a big white horse with a big white lance? You shoot him in the face. And then there's no horse, there's no lance, there's no knight. And everybody goes, well, the white knight understood 5th generational unrestricted warfare, and I don't, right? And this continuously is the problem. Like, look at what happened look at what is happening literally as we speak. Well, Alex Jones is about to go to jail for having talked shit about the Sandy Hook thing. And then what happens, right? Do we expect Owen Schroyer to go pick up and look, I'd say no offense, but Owen, you're not going to be able to do it. Pick up and carry InfoWars, because that's not going to happen, right? InfoWars is Alex Jones, period, right? And so if he goes to jail, this is over. There is nothing, right? Once he is pulled out of where he is. And by the way, I use this example because it is currently ongoing. If you're listening to this and you're going, yeah, but Alex Jones is a nut, well, then so be it. Pick whoever you want. For everybody going, Ron DeSantis is going to save us. Cool. What happens if Ron DeSantis goes to jail? Just out of curiosity, what happens if Ron DeSantis gets assassinated?
Or even worse, as a Floridian, my worst fear is he runs for president without grooming a actual America First successor. And this is why one of the major things that I am all about is making sure nobody gets bogged down into one thing. This is why I don't mind talking unrestricted 5th generation warfare with one crowd and Sun Tzu and the other. All I care about is whatever, I want to have as many hooks as possible for as many different demographics as possible. Same way, I don't hate Q, because guess what? Q is really great for recruiting middle-aged women. Sorry, but it is.
Okay. So if Q was recruiting middle-aged women to do something, and by that I mean if we want to recruit women in general, and dear women, you're not going to like this, they're not going to be out there on a battlefield holding a gun. They're not going to be the ones out there getting beat by cops. They're not going to be the ones, look at Moldy Locks, right? So here's an internet throwback reference for you.
Yep.
Oh, I'm big and powerful till this guy punches me in the face. Then it's all over. They're not going to be those people. On the other hand, give them a stack of white flowers in a, bigger than they are, and have them start handing them out to men who are being pussies. And if Q was doing that, I'd appreciate Q. And it's
well, I'll come to David's defense. I always post the Project Veritas videos. I just always post them. I don't give it. I just put it out there. I don't put an argument behind it. I don't say this is right. I just put it out there, and I let people do what they will with it. I get banned now. I've actually been banned for the first time from Facebook. I think it's over for posting it. I have seen on cue boards that they circulate Project Veritas videos. At the very least, maybe the whole, there is a plan and Trump saving the kids under Central Park. That's not true. But if it does get boomer Karens in Idaho to start talking about like NAFTA and, exporting jobs and
is this happening?
Mm-hmm. Right. But here's the thing, though.
More so than it's above zero. It's a non-zero number.
I'll take it. Firsthand women that woke up, started with Q, and eventually they did kind of grow out of it. But they are the kind of people that are now going out to school boards and yelling at school boards.
But very true.
So regardless of
roundabout
as much
way,
as we want to make a fun of it,
roundabout way,
it did target a demographic, and as we can joke about some of it, but some people were motivated to go at the next step
that
further.
Otherwise would have stayed down. You can go on, and people are like, this has motivated me to go to the school board, and it's like, maybe there is no plan, but now this woman is going to the school board and at the very least letting her. That's non-zero. No, you're right, okay. Don. They're not out there. They're not out there feeding the belt. I understand that. That's a non-zero point.
So hold on, because I get this with just about everything.
Right? I'll fucking rape you.
Probably, but still, I get this with just about everything. Dawn, I found your channel because of Ben Shapiro. Okay, that's what? Nice. I promise you, this is a thing I hear every other day.
How?
Right.
Right.
Well, you see, I found Ben Shapiro, and that led me to, I don't know, Sargon of Akkad, and then you interviewed Sargon of Akkad, and then I found you. So if it wasn't for Ben Shapiro, I never would have got it. Okay, that's very nice. Ben Shapiro has an audience of, 5 million people? Of that 5 million people, less than 1% of 1% move on, right? And this is the same thing with Q, right? Less than 1% of 1% of Q is like, okay, so this plan thing is not working out. There are people, unironically, who are like, yeah, Trump's in control right now. And at that point, I just go, well, so this is unironically Operation Trust. This is, the Mensheviks will save us all. Yeah. And no, the Mensheviks will not save us all. And so if you pacify 99.99% of anything that looks like resistance, but 0.001% are over there going, okay, now, well, then we're not talking 3%. We're not talking 5%. We're not talking all those numbers that everybody likes to talk about. Okay, we could actually change this if even a fairly, small minority got up and did something. What you are talking about is, well, we have pacified enough people that though there might be resistance, it is irrelevant resistance.
Yeah, and to be fair, when we're talking about the kind of people that become pacified by that, let's be honest. It's not like they were going to be active without.
I was about to say, they weren't going to. It'd be sorry, David. It'd be one thing if you pacified 100 Dales and then one of them went, I don't think this thing's happening. I'm going to start going to my school board, and then I'm going, well, at least one guy's doing it, and I get Don's argument. But you're going, well, now 99 aren't. It's not 100 Dales. It's 100. It's 100 Tommies who are just jerking off. And 99 of them went, there's a plan. They were never going to do anything. And one of them went, fuck it. I'm going to get banned from YouTube and start screaming about ivermectin and satanic pedophiles. That is plus one. That is plus one.
Go back and listen to Dale, right? Go back and listen to him on this subject. I couldn't believe it, man. I went back and talked to guys that I knew, and apparently if something happens, I'm going to have to start shooting people in the face. Not just random people, Green Berets.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that episode. Mm-hmm. I vividly remember that line. I'm going to have to start shooting Green Berets in the face.
But this is one of the reasons that, I want to focus on having as many lures, as many flavors as possible, and as many hooks as possible, because at the end of the day, if you want to move the needle, we can't get bogged down to one narrative, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, people are going to get caught up on nomenclature and word games. It's just the nature of what we're dealing with right now. And so we have to craft a narrative that's going to hook each and every different group. The same way that, you might craft a narrative that you're hoping to walk, some socialists onto a neoliberal target to fuck with liberals. You need to craft a narrative that's going to move your crazy conspiracy nuts in a similar direction. So it's like, we're trying to control every end of the spectrum to an extent. And you have to have a flavor and a brand and a narrative for each and every one of them that they're going to react to.
Because that's a different thing, right? That is not a question of whether or not Q is good, right? Whether or not Q is beneficial. That is whether or not we can be reactive to Q and turn something that is shit into something good. And in that, I will happily agree with you. That is possible.
Well, yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to take any momentum that we see moving, and we have to amplify that momentum. We might not be able to create a giant, bump in the scale on their own. But if we see it to start to go up and we can amplify that and change that narrative as we want to, we might be able to either amplify it, give it a little bit more oomph, or we can steer it into a direction that we want or walk it onto a more relevant target. It's really easy to, if your enemy is a Fed, it's really, a Fed straight white male, it's pretty easy to get an Antifa guy, to be harassing, some cop that you don't like. The same way it's really easy to walk on a neocon onto a Democrat you don't like.
That is a particularly good example, right? Because I don't think anyone here is arguing that Antifa is good.
But you can use them.
Right. And this is the thing about Q, is I see it as the same thing. Right. Sure. If you take a bull and you put it in the right china shop, it's going to break the right china shop.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make the bull inherently good, right?
Yeah. Well, we can't get rid of the bull, so how can we make it work for us instead? And that's just that's the mentality we have to have, because we can't get rid of the bull.
This goes to another thing. Q is not momentum. Q is inertia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make no mistake. Q devolves all pushback down to ladies and gentlemen, we are fighting the left here. Like, subscribe, share this content everywhere, because that's how we defeat the left. And by the way, yet again, shout out to Ben Shapiro. Fuck you for that, because no, liking content is not defeating the left. Getting a thumbs up on YouTube, one of the most leftist platforms on planet Earth, is not some major win against the left. And when you tell people that is all they have to do, they self-pacify, right? They go, oh, well, Ben Shapiro said all I have to do is like this content. We're defeating the left. These are people who will then not go out to school boards, will not, right, do anything. And look, bonus points to, because I'm shitting all over a different Daily Wire guy, Matt Walsh, who was like, oh, okay, so this really isn't working. And then went down to a school board and was like, you guys should come with me, because good, you're doing something. But Q is the do nothing. It is as long as we trust Q just a little bit more, long as I get up and I praise Q in the morning, then what we're gonna get is the satanic pedophiles that control the entire world are all gonna die in a horrible fire. I realize that keeps not happening, and that Q said Trump was gonna win the election and enact the Insurrection Act, and we were gonna kill the lefties, but like, it's all part of the plan, bro. This is inertia.
And let's be honest, these are the kind of loudest people in the room that are the dumbest people in the room, and they were going to be useless no matter what. And that's when I see a movement like that anyway, I view that as all the more reason to go get involved and start walking them on the more, different targets, and to be more effective. And, it's really easy to do with groups like that, because when you have some esoteric secret group, these groups are always searching for something. They're always looking for that next document, that next thing, or what the fuck ever. And all you have to do is keep feeding them a little bit, a drip here and there. And if they feel like it's some kind of insider information, they're going to start consuming it, because that's what they want. They want infotainment, essentially. And so we have to go in there and we have to essentially route them away from the people that are going to give them infotainment heroin, and start trying to actually, multiply these people into something that is remotely effective. And if just, 2 or 3 of those people go from, being a following the Q post person to, oh, Ezra Watnick Cohen's Q, and Jeff Prather said something about Ezra Watnick Cohen, and all of a sudden they sign up for Jeff Prather's Team America, and next thing you know, they're getting involved in election audits and surveillance of that kind of stuff. Guess what? That's a win. I'll take it. It may not be perfect, but I'll take those bodies that we weren't going to have eventually.
I think you have a recruiting a raw numbers problem here, right? And I am not sure that this is disputable. So by all means, dispute accordingly. What you will end up with is, and you see it already, is there is an eminent minority of people who are interested in getting up and doing something, are being funneled from the click, like, subscribe, and share into go do whatever. And I will grant, at the moment, it looks a lot better than I am going to make this out to be, because there are people all over the country who are going to school board meetings and being like, okay, that's enough, that's crap. However, you will end up with this eminent minority while the people you are opposing are recruiting 90+% of the population, of which 10% are more than happy to get up and be activists. And
this is why I say specifically, never get caught in one narrative and one line. Like I said, you're absolutely right. It's a very small minority. Yes, we do want to control that minority, but this is why I say, like, Q is just one drop in the bucket. We should have a lure for every demographic and a hook for every demographic, and we should be trying to pull, essentially the whole wider spectrum along with them. The question is, what markets to them, what gets them hooked, and what gets them going. And and with that, you have to go off of inertia with what they're already into.
Yeah.
Well, so I agree entirely, right? I will happily cede the point that you can't. I've been saying this to people for years. You can't turn somebody 180 degrees and have them do whatever it is you want them to do, but you can turn them 10 degrees and get them going vaguely the direction that you want them to go. So you got to start with people who are already kind of facing the direction you want. This is the kind of thing that I get, stupid things when I say, if there's a politician who wants to do something that sounds kind of like what you want, then you can go write him a bunch of letters. You can have people call his office, send him emails, blah, blah, blah. And you can move him that 10 degrees and he will at least be closer to what you want. You can get wins that way, but you can't go to Nancy Pelosi and go, so what we need to do is start right-wing death squads, because that's not going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And then the answers I get are, well, yeah, but like we should, well, what do you think? We're going to get like Dianne Feinstein? Like, no, I don't think we're going to get the other person from the shittiest state in the country to suddenly decide that what we should do is anything vaguely good for the country. No, you idiot. That said, though, what we are doing, as far as I can tell, is establishing a pretty great way to lose while feeling good about it. Right. If what you're going to do is, and the plan as it sits, right, we if we were more effective at doing this, I think you'd be right, but as things stand, we're not. So at bare minimum, we had better get a lot better.
Yeah, and this is why I make the case of this is why we need to be getting better, because if the right has this, as you say, the white horse kind of syndrome. We want to put all of our focus on one kind of demographic and hope that that's what kind of pushes us through. But if we have a hook and a lure for every kind of demographic out there, and we can move every demographic 10 degrees. Okay, 10 degrees on every little demographic and every little group. All right, that's a lot when it all starts adding up. And that's the kind of mindset we have to get into, instead of just focusing on, one little narrative, one little group that's going to come in to save the day. We need to start getting involved in the groups that we cringe at, and we say, well, that's useless or what the fuck ever. Well, for me, I see a bunch of useless Q-tards and I'm like, that's where I need to be, because those guys are going to be useless if someone doesn't at least move them 10 degrees over.
Well, yeah. So I think a better example of what you're talking about, and equally an example that we need to keep in mind, because it demonstrates something else, is Black Lives Matter right now, who are running around ripping apart everything to do with vaccine mandates because some dumb hoe with a rap career went, well, I don't know if this is a good idea. And more power to you. That's a thing. One, I don't have to be doing. Two is going to have the left fighting the left. And three is a bunch of people who are going to take the casualties for us. And I don't mean that in literal bullets, but look, if BLM goes and causes a big enough problem that local PD, where they're talking about is overtly the enemy. Sorry, local cops, but I'm sure the two of you that are any good that are listening to this are like, Don, I'm not the enemy, but the rest of your station is. Then, good, more power to them. I'm more than happy to just point that nuke that the left has created at the left. Good. On the other hand, one, they're not our friends. And dear right wing, please learn this. Please learn it now. BLM did not suddenly stop being a communist organization because they hate vaccine mandates. There's still a bunch of commies.
At best, useful proxies if walked onto the correct targets. And this is what I've been, talking to Tommy about since probably the first time we started podcasting, is one of the most effective things we can be doing is walking the left onto their own targets. And you know, as one of my favorite movies, Rock Hudson to Brooke, 1967. You know, one of my favorite scenes in that movie is they have all these Jews in German uniforms and everything. And you've seen the movie, all right? I'm surprised that a lot of people don't see that movie. And they come in between, I think some Italians and some Germans, and they set up a mortar and they get them both shooting at each other, and then they drive off. Like, that's the most effect. Like when most of the right isn't mobilized and ready to fight yet, the best thing we can do is take the people who are already ready to fight and get them fighting each other, right? If they're not on our side. And so, and while we're doing that, we also have to be preparing, you know, when we see a group like Q or what the fuck ever, as much as we want to cringe or whatever, we need to say, oh, well, there's something the same way the left goes, that's problematic. You know, we need to get involved and start changing how they think. The problem with the right is we say that's problematic, that's gay and stupid, and I'm not going to engage with that, and then we lose. So,
so that's a different thing, right? Because I don't think we shouldn't engage with Q. I don't.
Well, Q's just one example, but yeah,
right. But there's a lot of these things, right? There are things I don't think we should engage with because they are effectively lost. And dear modern day smart right wing, who is just a bunch of fucking commies that hate gay people, I mean, we should not engage with you. You people are fucking disastrous. Maybe if you grow up one day and stop being complete douchebags, maybe there's some fertile ground there. But generally speaking, you people are retards to the point that you are detrimental as opposed to even useful. But other than that, most of this sit and do nothing kind of right wing nonsense, by all means, engage with these people insofar as like, hey, so how's this working out? Are you winning yet, son?
Are you winning?
But every, you know, the difference here is consistently, and I have a friend ish on you know, that is a different content creator on YouTube that opens every video with "we are winning," right? And that, I think, is overtly a problem because we're not.
Complacency right there. That's
right. You know, and I wouldn't care except that foolish me did something else, which is to say read his comment section and found 50, 60 people go, "It really makes me feel better every time Q says we're winning." And I went, that's
a problem.
And that is exactly the problem.
So two things. On the Q message boards, because as you guys know, I love spectating. There are actually two things, and it's one, more and more frequently you're seeing posts about, I think we've been placated.
Yep.
The very fact that those posts are out there and they're not downvoted into oblivion, that's a win. The second thing is there are people who also say, I'm not sure how much I buy into this whole Q thing, but it has opened my eyes to what's going on. Here's a video of me at my child's school board. That's a good thing. And to Nicki Minaj being a dumb hoe, she is. Can the vaccine make your balls big? I don't know. I don't think that's true at all. So what is the problem with it? To me, it's BLM it doesn't make them any less of a communist organization. Yeah, I get that. What Nicki Minaj is doing is there is something that it's not about where the lines being redrawn. She is showing a certain thing that like you can't be unshown, in that she's saying, again, as much as I talk shit about the vaccines, I don't think they can make your balls big. But what she is showing is that if you speak out against the party line, you will be viciously attacked. And if you question it, you'll be viciously attacked. That is something that she, like the Q crowd being funneled into Prather, she is showing something, to like it or not, 150 million fucking people that follow her, that, hey, and then she says, this is like communist China. You can't talk out. And what she say in her video, they're going to come after me so that everyone with a smaller platform than me will be scared to come out in the future. That's a good thing. And that, to me, that is a good thing. That is something that's not organization based. That is just, she was showing some red pills. 1% of 1% of 1% of people might catch those red pills. I'll take that win. I'll take that win.
Don't I realize that I am the perpetual downer in these discussions, but don't count your wins as losses, right? So she is pissing off a lot more people than that, right?
Yeah.
A lot more than 1% of 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
Right? The number of people who are you know, at least catching that maybe maybe they didn't really hate us yesterday. Outside of you can't speak out, because make no mistake, I follow a bunch of BLM stuff in that same way of, observing idiocy regularly. And these guys there are serious discussions amongst these bunch of goddamn commies that go something like, when we did have every corporation posting the BLM flag, we did have, we could just march through the streets with impunity. And all of a sudden we're not on every news network. What the hell is going on?
I'll take that fucking win. It's right. I mean, talk about, and action, and within one day, right? It took people to get disillusioned with Q over 4 years to go to a school board. Within a day of a tweet, she had a crowd of people marching at the CDC. I mean, take that as you, but again, and not only that, and again, it's not the whole CDC, it's the very fact that the most important thing of all, because when you make a stake on a single topic, it's easy for that to get convoluted and watered down. But the very statement she made, right? You cannot talk out. And then what did she also say? You can't talk to someone from another party. If a Democrat tells you to put marbles up your ass, you put marbles up your ass. If a Republican says, hey, get out of the street, a bus is going to hit you, you better stand there and get hit by the damn bus. That just sort of objective lesson that she showed, like, that's out in the ether now. Like, that's not coming back. And people are seeing all these people coming out, oh, this dumb bitch, where's her, where I didn't know she was a molecular biologist. And she's going, what? I'm not allowed to question because I'm not a nutritionist, but when I go to Walmart, I look on the back of it and I go, that's a lot of calories. I probably shouldn't eat that. There are some good things coming out of it.
There's a lot of good.
I need fake tits and I need to be black.
Yeah.
Let's just be a VTuber. That's the secret.
Exactly.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. I just need to become the hottest girl and just start reading like the Bill of Rights every day.
Right.
I'm a marketing genius. What can I say?
Yes, tits sell. That it's been working for me. What can I say?
Amanda McCants, who is like one of the sexiest women ever. She's actually pretty funny, not even in a simp manner. She has some good videos, but she's also not fucking stupid. Every video,
what's her name
just
again?
in like Amanda McCants, McCants. Every video, just cleavage out. She's hot as fuck. She's like a Southern California girl. She is moderately funny, but she's fucking smart. Every single video, she's not dumb. She'll be like, these are the money makers. This is why I have YouTube subscribers, but it's also paying her and paying for her apartment. We need her to just be in a bikini every day and just reading the Nuremberg Code or the CDC published adverse reactions from a vaccine, something that people don't give a fuck. They're just watching anyway. I mean, full circle to MK Ultra. Let's start using some psychological tricks. Just be like, what?
As Don was saying earlier, every time I hand out flowers and say you have no balls or something like that. That's the key to marketing.
We need to hack Pornhub. So no matter what, we start Pavlovian training the world to every time they see tits, they also realize, we need to put a banner up in front of every video that says, do you support vaccine mandates? And you have to click out of it to see the video. So now people are trained. Well, I want sex and I don't want vaccine mandates.
I am all for this. My biggest problem with this is a different lesson the right ought to learn. And they're never going to, at least as far as I can tell, right? The left is more, they learned this at bare minimum in the 20s, and by 20s I mean a century ago. 20s, right? There's that video from that douchebag communist who was the head of the Communist Party in the United States talking about Hollywood, and he said, I don't want a progressive movie. I want a great movie that everyone watches with one drop of progressive propaganda.
Oh yeah.
And that is the principle that you're talking about here, right? So the problem with this is that the right are massive purists, right? They just simply can't get over anything. If you go this exact thing that you're talking about, right? So this tyrannical vaccine mandate thing, along with the Vax Passport, is a thing that we should target and put a pop-up on Pornhub that says you want to rub one out. But to be able to do that, you have to say you don't like vaccines, right?
You have to scan your Vax Pass.
That is perfect for saying we will get people pissed off at vaccine passports, right? Just absolutely. We won't do it because in any way this uses something the enemy already finds positive. And because of that, it's too terrible, right? So
yeah.
If you go out there and I don't know, pick any of the supposedly right-wing tranny YouTubers who mostly are not right-wing.
Do you say right-wing tranny?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? I'm not allowed to be on YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah, they exist.
I'm on the outside, just knocking on the window of the party. I'm like, what's going on in there?
Yeah.
Hey, you're invited to the server. You just have to show up.
Right. You're in there. So.
Oh, yeah.
Dumbass. Anyway, but take any of these people, and instead of instructing them to hand out more of, my right-wing red pills, what we do is go, well, you shouldn't be a fucking tranny. Which is true.
You're just losing but I do point to that as like I try to do it on here, and Ken Clisby, right? I had him last week, and he talks about that in his book, Willing Accomplices, about how they're like, no, we don't want a Marxist movie. They're like, we just want one thing in one line about, the working man's not getting his fair share. I think for all people's criticism of him, I think Rogan does that very well. He'll do a thing with a doctor, Pierre Corey, talking about ivermectin and the suppression of alternative treatments, the higher rate of efficacy of treating COVID. And then there will be 15 episodes with paleontologists, comedians, and porn stars. And then he'll slip in another this, that, he's talking to Mike Baker the other day, that CIA guy. And he was, it's just like 1 30-second clip in the 3-hour podcast. He goes, it's kind of weird about the boosters, because remember originally they said you couldn't catch COVID, and then they said, okay, you can catch it, but you can't spread it. And now they're saying, well, you can catch it and you can spread it, but you won't go to the hospital. And now people are going to the hospital. He goes, it's just weird. It's just, and then he goes back to the conversation. I think that's what you need. And you're right. There are people that are like, no, we cannot do this. We will not do a podcast with a porn. And it's like, shut the fuck up and just do what I interviewed the former head of Penthouse last week. The day before, I interviewed a physician talking about COVID. You just drop it in there. Just little sprinkles, little tiny bits. Just Rufalin. Just red pill.
Have a flavor for everybody.
Just red pill Rufalin.
You want to talk about how ridiculously bad this is gotten for at least those of us who are not radical leftist lunatics. Go back and watch movies from the 90s, right? And this is a thing that kills me, because I get this from let's say more vaguely, I don't even know if right-wing or conservative is the right word. You play the pronoun game as you want, not overt globalist, communist, whatever you want to call them people, because my bar is really low on this. Just not those people, good people. And you see people who supposedly fall into that, and they're like, well, I am perfectly happy to watch communist utopia movie. I just want it to be good. And that is the overt failure that we have. Right. And unironically so. I need that hit of feeling good in the movie. And look, I don't care if the opening scene is you should suck the dick, bigot. That's fine. Just make it good after that. Like, no, stop. Right.
And that's how you get a generation of people who think that Obama is a liberal Democrat.
It unironically is. Go look at the left now. There was a radio host where I used to live that used to talk about this. Said, Obama will be hated in the future because there's video of him eating hot dogs. And that's true. If we get around to this vegan eat the bug nonsense, then, well, despite that he did all of this stuff, he was a horrible person because he ate hot dogs.
We all genocided animals back then. So we got to be erased from history, and they gotta start from zero. New calendar.
Maybe we need to start toppling statues, so that toppling statues is associated with white males.
It's sort of happening right now. Some kid threw a bunch of paint on that.
The George Floyd,
statue, right? And it's look at what the white males are doing, and a bunch of the right is running around right now going, well, I thought this was okay. Like, guys, you don't there's no strategy here, is there? It's I want to poke fun at stuff and be popular.
Now, is there a strategy in just chaos? Like, is there a strategy in just, well, maybe we can judo them into this and we have Nikki red pilling? And
Well,
is there a strategy
that's order
in
out
just
of chaos? Yeah.
Is there a strategy in just pulling all the strings and not
Order
necessarily not necessarily caring which side it's for? Do you just poke holes in all of it and just really throw the board up in the air?
That strategy is called accelerationism. And what it go back and listen to Yuri, right? Because what you will find out very quickly is that Yuri will tell you almost instantly that that's all well and good, but what you are going to get is the normalization, right? At the end, there is either civil war or the commies roll in and take over everything, right? That's what you get 100% of the time. And so, I get people's, well, maybe if we can just get the fire to burn fast enough, then we can at least get the horrible people too. Like, well, yes, but understand that that two that you threw in there at the end, that means you first, just so you know.
Yeah. I wonder, and I've thought about this more and more. Is there a point, though, maybe this is just philosophy, but one thing I've been thinking about more and more recently is like reading back at these guys in like the teens and 20s and 30s talking about like it'll take 50 years and then we'll overthrow the West and do this, and they're doing all right. I'll give credit where credit's due. But the one thing you realize is you go in some of them, then there's like accounts later on and they're in their 80s and they're like, it's working. And then, but eventually anyone with their brain goes, well, where are they now? And it's, well, he died. He was born in 1904. You go, and you read enough and you go, it all eventually it did just end. Like eventually you're not here anymore. There is a certain liberation in realizing that even if Western values take back over, right, and communism's driven off our shores and fucking get rid of CRT and there's no more Antifa and BLM and we get rid of censorship and China collapses and, we use fusion power to desalinate the world's oceans and we end hunger and dehydration and malnutrition and we end all conflict and we develop faster than light travel. Yeah. And then what? Oh, I don't know. Probably what? I'm 31 now. I give or take probably live for another 30 to 50 years. And then what? Oh, and then you're dead. There is a certain liberation in realizing that even in the best case scenario, it all just ends. And there's some liberation in that. And someone might say, well, that doesn't matter because it's about what you stand for. That may be true, but even them arguing against me will eventually end with clinical brain death. There is a freedom in that and realizing that, we really are. And I don't mean, because I don't like nihilism. I don't like the black pill. I think there is like positive nihilism where you realize it doesn't matter and that's a good thing. Ultimately,
if what you take from that is that the sacrifice in the moment is acceptable, right? So it doesn't matter how much I argue with you on this podcast.
Sure.
Look, we have been, I would like to say, pretty decent friends since you threw me in your basement and locked me to your radiator.
Yeah, but still there.
None of the immediate disagreement matters because we're forging something that hypothetically could matter. Right. Even if, we forge something that lasts for only a century, but that century, during that century, it does something great.
It's a good century.
Right. Then good. But what I find people take from what amounts to in the light of eternity, nothing matters, is nihilism. Right.
Yeah.
And I know that, I'm not a nihilist. I don't like the black pill was in there, but generally speaking, if I can't do something that changes literally everything and all the time, why bother is a much more common response. And so it might sound dickish of a guy specifically with a pleb hat on to say that, you can't sell this to the masses because it produces shitty results, but that's true.
Yeah,
that's exactly true. It's the fact of the matter is we can take that mindset, but at the end of the day, all the KGB officers, they eventually get old and dies. The Soviet Union collapses, and suddenly, Russian intelligence has to focus more closer to home than overseas in our backyard. But guess what? They already delivered the payload, as Clisby would say. The payload's already there, and great power politics never ends. Geopolitics never ends. There's always another rival. And guess what? All it takes is Chinese intelligence to go, see what the Russians been doing? We can just pick that up and run.
Yeah. And that is the problem. Probably, and this is going to seem ridiculous. And I understand that, but probably one of the scariest articles I've ever read in my life, because it demonstrates this so well, is the New York, not the New York Times, Time Magazine has an article talking about how when Medicare was first created in this country, the people who created it said privately behind closed doors, look, America will not, under any circumstance, we've tried, they will not accept socialized medicine. However, they like old people. And so if what we can do is create a system that is socialized medicine, but only for old people, because we really need to take care of the old people, then we will teach Americans that socialized medicine is a good idea. And the people who came up with that idea are dead, absolutely gone. But what they were doing was living for a principle greater than themselves. And at the times of their death, in some of these cases, they went, it doesn't matter. I have made the impact. America is now talking about socialized medicine in a way other than this is socialism and we cannot have it. And that was the goal.
Sure.
Right? They are fighting multi-generational warfare, willing to make small impacts in this fight so that the next generation can carry on. And I'm not going to kid you, we're not.
Sure. It's so I'll touch on that nihilism point. Is, to me, it has had the effect of ultimately I'm just gone, and it hasn't had the effect of what does it matter. To me, it's had the effect of the exact opposite. I have moved to a multi-generational impact, but it's less based on nationalism in America, and rather I'm like, when I'm gone one day, if I can use this podcast directly by talking about it and indirectly by setting up like or donating to a research center, that it will affect mental health care in the United States, and maybe China takes over, and then it will, but the discovery will be made, penicillin, whatever, the discovery will be made. I look at it as, well, in 2,000 years, when no one remembers me or anyone related to me, but getting rid of depression is as easy as, taking a Tylenol for a headache. And even though I'll never meet any of them, if there's someone that doesn't have to experience losing someone to suicide, or worse yet, committing suicide, that is how I have changed in this, to where I'm like, I love the United States and I always fight for freedom of speech and the right to bear arms and what the West stands for. But it hasn't had the black pill effect on me. It's had I've switched my long march through the institutions. Instead, I'm like, how can I change mental health care before I die? And will that affect people far off in the future that I'll never meet? That might be dirty communists, but maybe it's a dirty communist, innocent kid that got to deal with depression in a way that my brother didn't. To me, that's what's done for me. And then also the second point is when you said, the irony of wearing a pleb hat and saying, but we can't say this to the masses because most people would be disillusioned. I'd have to respectfully disagree in that, when I post CDC vaccine deaths on Facebook and people say, you're literally killing people with this misinformation. And I say, why? And they say, because you're tricking them into not getting the vaccine. I say, did I trick you? And they say, no. And I say, why not? And they said, I saw through your bullshit. I say, why can't other people see through that bullshit too? They go, they're not smart enough. And I say, I disagree. They can. And those who will, and those who won't. And that's just natural selection. I don't think we can write off the masses and say everyone will fall into a black pill, because
certainly not everyone.
Well, so at some point someone might have said that about me, and then it hit me, and now I'm going, oh, I'm going to try to change healthcare. A lot of people might be black pilled. That was inevitable. I think a lot of people, I think they're smart enough to go, nothing matters. Well, maybe we should try to do the right thing because nothing matters, and fuck.
So
That's my 2 cents.
I agree with the
Nicki Minaj is a
premise.
dumb hoe.
Yes. I agree with the premise that there are going to be some people who come out of this idea and go, well, maybe we ought to make some impact in the meantime. However, take a quick look around you. And by that, I don't mean, talk to people I mean, look at the political landscape, because that's where I spend all my time, right? The number of people who have, in the past 30 years, moved from there is a principle and we should engage with it to, well, it's all falling apart, so I might as well get mine now, is pretty massive, right? And that is the output of what you're talking about. Is none of this matters anyway, right? Because in the end, we're all gone. So as long as none of this matters because we're all gone, might as well get mine.
Might as well sit on a bar stool, drink, watch sports, because there's information paralysis and I don't know how to handle this.
Exactly. And statistically, I don't think the argument's on your side. And while, a based monarchist, wherever they might be, is like, yeah, but the only person you need to convince is the king. We don't have one of those. Mm-hmm. We, it turns out that even the king must have enough support to be able to continue doing what he's doing, right? If the lords under the king all go, yeah, but it doesn't matter, so I might as well get mine, then the king too is paralyzed. Mm-hmm. And the problem is you do need, that support of the populace enough to get this done. And if you don't have it, then everything falls apart. And I say this and people go, yeah, but Don, we could just like force it to happen. And no, you can't. If you can't go anywhere without someone shooting at you, then you can't, right? And that's, I don't care how powerful you are. Someone's going to shoot you eventually, right? And this is why there's a Pope mobile. Oh, Don, but the Pope isn't being assassinated. Well, look, no one wants to assassinate the Pope as much as they used to. So the Pope mobile is just a,
he's a very populist Jesuit. Thanks, Operation Condor.
Right.
But
and this is the thing is, you can't just mandate it. There's not going to be the wild 0.1% that rises up and makes everything win if every single thing is hostile to you, right? And this is the thing that we don't even see in warfare, right? When Dale talks about, you go into a city and the kids are gone, those kids aren't hostile to you. They just don't want to be there for the gunfight. And what you're seeing is them checking out of the fight. If, on the other hand, every time you walk into a city, the kids don't disappear. They're just not standing on one corner because they're waiting for the ID to go off so they can all pull out AK-47s and start hosing you down. That's a very different scenario, and the one that we're actually looking at.
And to address the other point, the mentality of, hey, I'm going to develop this payload that can cure depression or whatever, and if I develop that, that's the mission, that's the goal, and that's going to be out there forever. Well, we have to keep in mind vigilance to this, because at the end of the day, someone like Jeff Bezos is seeing that as like, wait a second, there's a way that I can make someone happy, all going into Aldous Huxley and all that. There's a way that we can make people happy in the wage cage. Guess what? That it's a tool like anything else. No. And to someone with a sadistic mind or a control freak mind, they're looking at your tool that you think that you left there and it's going to help people, and they're looking at it, I can weaponize that.
But with that, if I 1 or 2 points real quick, that's the same argument though. Then why invent anything? Why invent anything? Exactly. And that's analysis paralysis. Why should I invent this podcast? Someone might use it to, you know what I mean? It's so.
Well, no, it's knowing that you are inventing something that can be weaponized, and so you have to have the sword and the shield. You can't just drop the payload. You have to be vigilant that your enemies are going to figure out how to use that too. Yeah, but you got to keep the fight up past the invention.
I could take these hoodies or these pleb hats and then take them to Skid Row during like a rainstorm and being like, you guys really want some shelter? You want some warm clothes? Like it's that point can be made ad infinitum. Mm-hmm. But I want to say about the king is, you listen to Elon Musk on his like first interview with Rogan. He goes, it might be a simulation, it might not. I don't think it really matters because we're just still here. We're still experiencing this. And he goes, well, then why do you want to go amongst stars? And he goes, like I might not live to see it. And even if I do, I won't live to see us become like interstellar and intergalactic. But he goes, waking up in the morning and having something to work towards gives life meaning. And he goes, that's beautiful to me. And so there's a guy that has all the money in the world who openly talks about how this probably is just a simulation and nothing means anything. And he's still going. Waking up in the morning with a goal makes you feel good.
Exactly.
To me, that's as close as you're going to get to convincing the king. a
Problem
genius
is
billionaire.
you need to have a regime, a built up regiment, and you need to have discipline and self motivation before you even get to that point, because otherwise that's how you end up with the average peasant going, well, nihilism.
Well, so the thing with the black pill and the nihilism, though, is we're having these pro and these counter arguments about it. Is ultimately it doesn't matter what any of our arguments are, because anyone can sit down, meditate, look up at the night sky, or look at a space telescope image and go, they can come to the same realization. So it doesn't even matter if we are pro or against it. It just is. People will learn it on their own, and so it doesn't matter what our opinions are on the molecular structure of water. It's fucking water. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And that's why what matters is, can we develop a hook for each of these demographics to get them looking towards a higher goal that reaches out to them and makes them want to get self-disciplined and self-motivated.
Well, and behold what my content has become, because this, in the world of serious irony, in my opinion, you will, if the people that I spend all of my time worrying about what they're doing, right, if they win and you cure depression, the first thing that will happen is that they will get rid of that cure. Right? Yeah. Because depressed people are way more easily managed. Mm-hmm. They don't get up and do anything. They go to work and, they live in, a wage cage and what have you. Yeah. And they are compliant, right? So if you create people who can take care of themselves, they don't like this idea of everything in their life being run. Just a little bit of capability to take care of yourself, and you run in very quickly to, well, I would just start a business, but it turns out I need a business license. I need 47 inspections. I need, what the hell is all this? And just that little bit, one, tends to cure depression, because it turns out that you have something that you're living for. But two, also gets directly in the way of all of these people, because these people need you not doing that.
So I should have clarified what I believe when I say I cure for your depression. I don't mean, you wake up every morning, you have to take your insulin, or you have to take your, you got to take your heroin so you don't go through withdrawals. I should have clarified what I don't think it's going to be an SSRI. It's like the serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I don't think it's going to be an SSNRI, norepinephrine. I don't think it's going to be something like that. I think those are helpful. I look at more in the way of, wake up every morning, you have to take your heart medication. Well, now all you have to do is withhold the heart medication. I think depression is more along the lines of, I was on medication and I sought therapy. I got out of that rut. And now I don't need either of those. And I wake up every morning, I diet, I'm working out, I'm budgeting, I'm trying to build this podcast, I'm doing bigger and bigger things. I don't need to live with my parents. I do have Dawn in my basement, but that's regardless. That's I have a team of lawyers. Dawn's mine. But to me, I look at it as I should have clarified, is it's not a pill you take every day. It's a thing that you need that little bit of help. And once you pull yourself out of it, well, you become, I moved home being a Bernie supporter because I was depressed and fat as fuck, and I wanted everything given to me. When I got mental health care and medication and pulled myself out of that, I am now what I am now, and I'm screaming about communists. So it's more of I want a tool for people to be able to pull themselves out of it, and then you become what I am now. Well, why do I need this? Why do I need you to tell me this? So I should have clarified that. I don't think it's like a Xanax. I think it's I want to find something that gives people that breathing room to get out of the cycle.
This is, I don't think that changes my point at all, though. I guess relevantly, I should have.
That'll make them want to ban it more.
Exactly.
But so then what's the point then? Don't not do anything because so they can't.
No. That's why we're fighting.
Right. I mean, as a guy that gets up and does stuff all the damn time, I am not here to tell you to do nothing. In fact, I am most notorious, I think, for saying do something, do anything, right? Because as it turns out, you are, but back in the day when we were all sold SSRIs and all that other kind of nonsense, right? What we were sold was, look, there are some people out there who their depression, their whatever their mental problem is so bad that you need a reset button. And that reset button needs to be a button. You push it and then it goes away in a minute. right? You know, they have trained themselves so thoroughly into this nihilistic depressive nonsense that they're not getting out on their own. So you push that reset button, and then you move them into therapy, and then you have Tommy's story, right? This is the point. And look, it's not a horrific point. It is a pretty good point. But what you saw almost immediately is, and go look into the DSM, and you will very quickly find out that the right and good people who said, no, this is a good idea, we should do that, were immediately told to shut up when they found out that Xanax makes you compliant, right? And it does. So
and for every good therapist out there that's doing good work, okay, there are a lot of leftists that are going in there for social control, to be commissars, and to be the person that says, well, this guy's mentally unfit, he's crazy, he's nuts, you know, he's a right-wing extremist. And so you just have to keep that in mind. This is why I'm saying it's like, you know, you don't lay down and die. You understand that anything that the right invents is going to be weaponized and used by the left too. And you have to be thinking, you know, 3 or 4 steps ahead, and you need to be thinking how you're going to counter those weaponizations before you even release the weapon into the ecosystem.
And don't, you know, analysis by paralysis was already brought up. Don't be that person, right? Don't go, okay, so I've got this idea that is the emotional reset button, and then I need to rabbit hole everything, because look, you're not going to get everything. On the other hand, when you know, and you sent me that book about white areas, aerial surveillance, and they talk about it at the end, right? So we should be ahead of the game on this. We should be fighting what are going to be the abuses in the future. And that is exactly it, right? So, you know, you've already got the weapon. It already exists, right? And the government is already using it. Okay, we should be having the fight about what we're going to do with this, as well as having created it. And if you're not doing that, you get what is literally happening right now, which is, and I wish I was making this up, the FBI turned over to the prosecutor in the Kyle Rittenhouse case infrared footage taken from a drone, and they only turned it over to the prosecution, and nobody has any idea what's on it. And the defense is over there going, well, but like, I don't actually have this. You only sent it to me a couple days ago, and you didn't actually send me the footage. You sent a place where I might be able to go get it. And this is the fight that should have been had as soon as white aerial surveillance started becoming a thing. We're going to get a little bit of it with the Rittenhouse fight, hopefully, if his lawyers even know that.
God bless Robert Barnes.
You know what I mean? But this is the thing: is a drone in the sky that can watch 40 square kilometers down to the capability where they can follow one individual person a badass thing on a battlefield that's saving American lives? Yes.
Sure.
Is it also being used right now to try and convict Rittenhouse in probably absolute falsehoods? Yes. And because we didn't also have the fight, partly because no one was paying any real attention, is that going to be a problem that we have to deal with now? Yes. Would we have been better off if someone started the fight to begin with, instead of just being the various people that he talks to in that book who are like, but it's awesome? We should have been having a fight. We should. And this is, I will steal directly from Stoli here, sword and shield. You had damn well had better be developing that shield as fast as you can, because the same things that will get you out of depression, will get you back motivated to do stuff, imply very heavily what it is you need to depress people and keep them compliant.
Yeah. I mean, and this is kind of a BS argument on my point, because it would be impossible for you guys to defend it. But we're not taking into account, well, of all the people that get out of depression, how many of them go on to do something society altering? An Elon Musk, a Steve Jobs. How many people climb out and do something, and now there are 1,000 other things that the supposed future enemy would also have to quash? You might be able to overwhelm it by that. Okay, we found out this thing allows people to get out of depression. If we get them in this 1 month time window, then we can keep them depressed. But fuck, 100 guys just got out of depression. Well, fuck, now 3 of them are these like hardcore civil liberty guys, or one of them's a whistleblower in the military who's now fucking fighting against wide area. Well, fuck, and it's
how many recovered alcoholics become workaholics?
That's what I mean.
Well, that's what we're trying to create.
There is the possibility, and to me, it's the opposite of nihilism. And I'm not saying that that's what you said it was. Is there are these sort of secondary and tertiary effects of, well, this guy might fucking invent this thing that allows for this, and now all of a sudden we're going, huh? I mean, you get what I'm saying?
Let's distill down what my complaint is, right? Because
you want to come out of the basement. I know you do, but
yes,
it's not happening.
Everyone has already told me I'm not going to be able to, so I just don't complain about that.
Okay, good.
It is not that we create a minority of people who go on to do incredibly great things, because one, I think you're aiming too high with that. I consider it an overt win. And I have this happen to me on a semi-regular basis when someone emails me, sends me a DM on whatever social media, and is like, you know what, man, I was listening to your content, and like I was that guy who sat at home and drank and just didn't do anything. And you know what I did is I started going to the gym. And you know what I did is like I got back to raising a kid that has good values. Like, I don't need Elon Musk. I need a million of those people.
Yeah.
And I have no belief that I will create the next Elon Musk, but I have a belief that I can create at least hundreds of the people who have that, next generation mindset in mind, who are going out, teaching their kids to be better people in every sense of the word. And that is overt winning. One, we're going to get an ass ton more of those people than we are at Elon Musk, just because there can only ever be so many Musks. On the other hand, the question, my complaint, as it were, is if what we develop is one Elon Musk, 5 of those guys, right? 5 guys who go out of their way to create a better world, even in a rather small sense, right? Just their kids, just their neighbor, just whomever. And 94 people out of 100 that are overtly trying to destroy everything and rip everything down, then we need not so much to stop what we're doing. We need to turn that 5 into 50, right? Because if it's 50 of those guys and 1 Elon Musk, now it's a force to be reckoned with. And that is a thing that needs to happen. That if the intent here is, look, I want people to be, one, more self-effacing, because you need that, right? A lot of what I find with people who are depressed and nihilistic is that they are not self-effacing. They know that they're shit, right? They will happily tell, oh man, I'm fat, I'm lazy, I don't take care of my kids, I'm a horrible person. And people look at that and they go, oh, they're self-effacing. No, they're not. They're just talking shit about themselves, right? Because self-effacing people go, okay, so what do we do about that? Right? Like, I'm fat. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't eat a cheeseburger every fucking meal. Who knew? And turn that nihilistic self-hatred into self-effacement, and then get them to do better things. And if that is the, one is my sole complaint with this, then that seems like it should be doable. How we do that, I don't really know. I am actively trying, but
if I may, is I've from the get-go of this idea I've had of pushing forward mental health, and I want that to be my lasting legacy. I've also kind of built in a fail-safe, and it's like, well, what if it doesn't happen and it doesn't work, and then was everything for nothing? Well, no, my fail-safe is at the very least I have video documented evidence of me starting above my parents' garage and moving forward with sobriety, with losing weight, with getting bigger and bigger guests, with increasing the quality of the podcast. To me, that will probably...
What do you still got me here for?
I know. Well, you're my property. You're my property. That's why. Right?
My bad.
Yeah, it's I'll forgive you. What I look at it is by doing this, I feel that along the reality is more so than any mental health effect I ever have on people through medication or research will probably be from someone going, oh, I was that fat loser. And then they don't just hear, I used to be this, The Rock's always like, I had $7 in my pocket. And then you look at him now and you're like, yeah, but you're 11 feet tall and you have 12 abs. Like, you're not real. Versus what I have done is now 585 episodes of sort of narrating my crawl out of that hole that will probably have more of an effect than any pill ever will. Because I have, like you said, probably not as much as you, but I have had people say like, dude, your persistence has driven me to like, I clean my room instead of like letting wrappers like pile up. That's more of an effect than any grandiose medication will. People that go, some of the best ones are, you've at least shown me to at least keep an open mind, even if, Tommy, I think you're too sympathetic to these like dirty communists sometimes. To me, I'm like, that's a win. If someone went, maybe I'll hear out someone else's argument. To me, that is a win. And the reality is, it's probably far greater than any mental health legacy I'll leave. Is people going, well, look at that fat idiot did podcasts. And look, he went from there to there to there. I mean, Don got home, change my liquor store shirt so Don and I can talk about Nazis. Like, to now, it's like, no, I turned this into a job. Like, that will probably have more an effect on anyone's life than like, okay, I could do this.
The follow-on effects of this are also a thing that are worth noting, right? And so when I concentrate on numbers because I don't like losing, and the winning here is going to come numerically, whether anybody likes it or not. It's pretty clear that having people who can take care of themselves, are self-reliant at all, stops a lot of this, right? The depression, the communism, the nonsense, right? All of it goes away the more self-reliant of a populace you have. And so while at the moment, right, I am, let's say, displeased if we are creating that 1, 5, and 94, right? But the flip side of this is teach these people as best you can to carry that on, right? Because I am one guy. End result, I will never be more than one person. If I am more than one person, it's because I got drawn and quartered and you're trying to play a technicality. And at that point, I'm not particularly useful anymore. So I'm one guy. And sure, Don, but you're one guy with a platform. Yes. And for every person that listens to me, there are 40,000 who listen to that idiot Sam Harris. And if you like Sam Harris, then fuck you. But still, there are, orders of magnitude more people. However, for everyone that listens to me, if I can A, teach them to be something better as they are, and B, teach them to propagate this, maybe I do only convince 1,000 people, 1,500, right? But in 2 generations of this, and let's say they all convince 1 or 2, right? We went from Dawn to 1,500 to 3,000 to 5,000, right? So yes, there will be follow-on effects to this, hopefully. No, it does not look good right now. But don't count your wins as losses. Don't also count your losses as wins. Both things that I think we all do consistently. So am I happy that maybe 100 people over the course of 5 years have emailed me and been, or gotten a hold of me and been like, Don, you really changed my life? Yes. Overtly, yes, right there. And for everybody who is sitting there listening to this going, oh, Tommy's done that for me, but like, it really doesn't matter. It does. First of all, it's probably the most motivating thing that you can ever get as a content creator is someone who emails you and it's like, you really made an impact here. Is like, yes.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's what the wins are is. And again, despite all my talking about, we can do this and be better here and but the reality is it's not who I'm interviewing. It's some people, just because I know I've been there. Some people just need to see someone that, what do I say? Every morning I wake up, I make my bed, I put on clothes, I go to the gym, I come back, cold shower, meditate this. At the very least, regardless of what I'm talking about, I am showing that, hey, this cycle is what's pulled me out of depression and allowed me to, once I finally got here, like to the point where I could pay for my own apartment, the first thing I did, and I'll keep them private, the first thing I did was help out my best friend of 20 plus years because I knew he was also horribly depressed. And once I was able to take care of I literally, instead of like, hey, we'll call him Bob. Hey, Bob, I'm gonna come up with a medication that's gonna help. The first thing when I was like on my own and I'm like, it's working, is I called him up and I was like, look, dude, I was in your spot. I was living at home too. I was drinking. I was overweight and I felt pathetic. But now me, and look, by working every day, I did this. I think we can get you on that path too. He is now doing, and I won't, again, to disclose him, he is now doing worlds better. And that may only be one person, but to me, that has shown something. I took care of myself in a very realistic way. And once I got to a point that I could then start to take care of other people. And even if it's one other person, that means more than any grandiose ninth generational dick cheese warfare. No, it's just, hey, take care of yourself, develop good habits. You're going to fall off the wagon sometimes. You got to get back up and keep working forward. You come across hurdles like getting banned from YouTube. But if you just keep doing little good things, you can help out others. And I think what you're saying, Don, that is what it is. That's more than anything. Someone going, hey, man, you inspired me to fucking start going to the gym more often. I'm not going to be a bodybuilder, but I am, I feel better about myself. And now I'm there to teach my son lessons. That is a trillion times more than any motivational video on YouTube where it's like, you got to pull yourself up in the morning. And then there's a clip of Rocky and it's, all that's great. And it's vanishing though. It's like crack. You take a hit and then 2 seconds later it's gone versus someone that is actually, they've changed from, I don't drink every night now. I go to the gym. That is, what truly, I know we're fighting like a global communist coup, but in a much more realistic fashion, in the grand scheme of staring into eternity and where nothing seems to matter, and you got one person to have a less shitty life. What truly, like, what more do you like? That is the most satisfying. Like, you know what? I didn't stop the commies, but Bill over there is a better dad. Fuck it. I left this world a better place. That's all you really can do.
And that goes on to expand and help more people the same way Don's 1500 will expand. And then we get back to the question of, say, like, how do we talk to more people and expand to 1500? It's really great. For every person that we can have a straightforward conversation with and help with is awesome. Yep. But, then we get back into, well, how do we talk to these people that, aren't quite there and they need help anyway? And a lot of these people are going to be defensive and they're not going to want help or whatever. And it all comes down to, we've all had to trick someone into thinking our idea is their idea, right? Because that's the only way it's going to get done, right? So to use the Q-tards as an example again, right? First, I'm not going to call them Q-tards. I'm going to.
I was about to say, right? You're going, we can't offend them. These retards.
But let's say my goal is to take a group of Q folks and get some of them watching Don's channel or your channel, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to lurk. I'm going to watch their language. I'm going to study their language and their rhetoric. I'm going to learn their language. All right. And I'm going to talk to them as if I am one of them. And I'm not going to say, here's this Don the Pleb channel. Here's Tommy's channel. These guys are incredibly based and everything you know is retarded and wrong. It's a little bit subversive, but this is how deprogramming works. Is I'm going to take them through my journey of, I'm a Q guy. I believe in their stuff. I'm going to present you guys as, well, I don't think they're quite Q-pilled yet, but they got heart. And I'm going to go down that direction with them. And what's going to happen over time is some of them are going to come around with me on my journey. And the people that are trying to control that narrative, the people that you're going to be fighting against, the same kind of people that at, say, like a leftist protest, when some journalist is trying to interview the protester, the handler, the commissar comes over and stops them from talking, those people are going to identify themselves really quickly as they see people coming along your journey. And so then, these are the controllers, the handlers. These are the people we have to separate, those that are willing to walk away from, and we have to start engineering that movement. And that's the really subtle way to walk things on, is we have to, instead of just mocking your enemy is great. But if you're trying to work a proxy, if you're trying to walk a proxy onto a target, right, you have to learn their language. You have to learn their rhetoric. You have to present yourself as one of them. It's like, read into what the Celis scouts did in Rhodesia. Like, this was, and across border and stuff. This is the kind of stuff you have to do if you want to get really good at essentially moving those other groups that 10 or 20 degrees.
Yeah. And it's the vaccine is the perfect kind of microcosm of that. I didn't get the vaccine. Fuck you. Inverse. I got the vaccine. I hope it works out for you, man. So did my brothers. I didn't get it. I didn't want it. Who's on your side? Who's on? That's all you really have to do. And, or you even just gotta go a little more subversive and you clip out the bit from this episode and go, they're covering what people don't want, the satanic pedophiles. They're burning kids in the wood on crosses. Q is real. Trust the plan. Donald Trump's in charge. Biden is wearing a skin mask. He's actually a robot developed by DARPA. And then, and then they get sucked into the whole motivational talk at the end.
Well, so, yes.
Or we just start. Don,
So
Don's like, these fucking schizophrenics I do podcasts with.
Right. Well, this is the thing that I two things I think get in our way. One, Stoli is entirely correct, right? You need to learn who it is that you're dealing with. And boy, is there a problem with this, which is to say that I don't think the right has any idea what the left is, right? And I know that's an unpopular thing to say. Darn, there's all these studies about the right knows what the left thinks. No, the right knows what the left will say. Right? And they know to a T what the left will say. On the other hand, the right would not think what the right finds as hypocrisy in the left was a big deal or hypocrisy if they understood the left. And I consistently trying to explain this to people who don't think overt commies taking over the whole country is a good idea. And they go, yeah, no, but we already know who they are. I go, but you don't. And this goes to the other thing, subordinate your damn ego, right? Which I know, oh, Don, but you're such an egotistical dickhead. I'm sure all of you, you think you know better than everyone on the right. I can hear the complaints already. Well, one of us goes, the right's, the left is being a bunch of hypocrites, and we don't, really understand how they get away with this. And the other one goes, but they're not being hypocrites, right? They don't, to the point that this is what gets me called a prophet, is that the left is going to do this. They are. It's going to be 5 or 10 degrees different, but this is going to be the through line. And people go, well, how'd you know? And I went, well, because they don't think like you think, right? They don't think that if yesterday I hated the corporations, I need to hate the corporations today. They want, the things that you don't think they want, right?
Yeah.
And you need to understand that these people are indeed what you would any day of the week call bad people. And it's not just some disagreement on, what the right tax numbers are. It is that everything that you hold dear, they hate, and they want you destroyed. And so this is why Nicki Minaj, dumb hoe that she is, won't be your friend.
No,
right? Because she still hates everything that you are. She's just pissed off at part of the left right now.
Yeah.
So let her be pissed off. Let her be destructive to her own, and do what you can to promote that. But don't bring her home for dinner and a movie. That's not a good idea.
Yeah. You're right.
Unless you have a really good target to walk her onto, and you think you can do it, then wine and dine away. But
go for it. Yeah, no, but it's there's like it's like a form of like tachia, right? It's like, what do you? I can't believe Hitler's having me executed for not carrying out Operation Barbarossa. You're surprised the guy that's burning millions of people isn't an upstanding guy who's he rubs your back when you rub his. It isn't it crazy how conspiracy theorists have just been right for the last 2 years? No, they're using this. It's not about a virus. It's about a mechanism of control so they can beat you over the head. And then we're not doing it. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. You just can't participate in society unless you take the vaccine. That's nothing to do. How do you know that? It's just look at what they're doing. Stop listening to what they're saying. I hate corporations today. Hey, trust the science tomorrow. No, if they're taking
where's the science come from?
Yeah,
Pfizer.
If they're walking in a direction down a sidewalk and they take left step, right step, right step, and you're going, yeah, they're walking towards that mailbox. But they keep telling you, no, we're walking on the lawn today. We're walking on the street today. And then Don the Prophet's going, no, they're walking towards the mailbox. How do you know? Just look at what they're fucking doing. All right. It has nothing to do with left, right, up, down. Where are they going? They're going towards smashing everyone over. If they can't do it through censorship, well, they did it through censorship. So what's the next step? Physically remove you from your job. Take the death jab or you can't do it. You're anti-science. Yeah. That's what it is. And it's marching in that direction. And really, I don't know. Just kind of what David said is show them the friends, show them that. Be like, yeah, that is crazy. I can't believe they banned Nicki Minaj. Can you believe that they're also banning this black YouTuber? Don't bring into the fact that it's like a Republican YouTuber. Just kind of judo. Just move in that direction.
And that's why it's like technically it's this is why I wouldn't actually use Don to throw to a Q crowd, and this is why I would throw Jeffrey, because Jeffrey's already he's ready to. He's the perfect fit for that crowd anyway. Well, but that's what it's all about. It's about finding different hooks for different people.
I got to pee real quick. But with that note is by having on the variety of guests I do, to me, I'm just throwing that many more potential like streams into the pool, because now you can take it. It doesn't even have to be this guy's not quite Cupid. No, you can literally go, this guy worked on a nuclear submarine. That's neat. And you slip it in there, and then partway through, maybe they go, I like this podcast, and they subscribe. And then they're getting the Don the Pleb, payload in their ass. And they're like, man, I started watching this podcast because they're talking about nuclear subs, but now I'm at a school board meeting. What the fuck happened? But that's the way you go, is truly hooks in every direction. And eventually it will bring you home to Don the Pleb screaming about the communist takeover. It all, there you go. It all, the rabbit holes all empty out into the same cavern. And it's Don screaming.
Well, yes, probably. So this is a thing that I think is going to piss a lot of people off, because I don't think people like it.
Nicki Minaj's tits real?
Probably no.
Yeah, I think so.
But I've been telling people for years, find something. How do I convert? Change the mind of all these people in my life, convert them over to giving a damn. And I keep telling them, find something that is emotional for them, right? Because you're not dealing with rational reasoning with the vast majority of these people. Anyone who screams trust the science in your face, you are not dealing with a rational response, right? And you don't have to like that, but it's true. And so when I say go find something emotional, people, because the first way that most of us relate to anybody else is through ourselves, people go, well, this was emotional for me, and that is wrong. Right? When that moment where you realized whatever is terrible, whatever impending doom or whatever it is, that is not an emotional response for other people. However, when fake titties, dumb hoe rapper got shit on by the general public, that was emotional for a lot of these people. And by a lot, I mean, look at the giant numbers of people who were like, but my girl, right? That's not her girl. That doesn't make any sense to you. You probably are like, well, yeah, but when my brother got shit on, like, I had a similar reaction.
Yes, Queen Slay. Thank you, right wing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you need to understand that those things that you have an emotional attachment to, those things that for you were big movers in how you're thinking, are not the people you're talking to. Right? Nicki Minaj getting shut down on social media or being yelled at by the federal government is an emotional moment for a bunch of people that you probably think are retards. And you're right. I'm not here to argue with you. They're retards. That's nice. But that's the kind of emotional moment that you need. That's the moment where someone goes, oh, I'm breaking the emotional reasoning that I've had thus far because something else more important. Yes, that something is a rap star. I don't care if you like that or not. But it's something more important to me came by and said, this is a problem, right? And in that moment, you have some capability to work with that person. Now, this is going to sound ridiculous, right? Because there are half of you who are like, Don, these people will send their own mother to jail. And you're right. They will.
Yeah.
But if Nicki Minaj gets told no, now they're upset.
Yeah.
Now there is some space to work.
Yeah. Take it as it is. It's man, that's got to start you. That's got to get you thinking. How would we develop the omnipotent apex of all emotional tugs? Right? I mean, it'd have to be like a deep fake, like transgendered, bisexual,
wheelchair bound,
half furry,
It's much simpler than that. We just need footage of the Australians executing dogs.
Yeah,
all we need is dog footage genocide.
I wouldn't say that.
And that's
Donald Trump made it in America for the first time that it's a felony to it's a federal offense to abuse animals. They didn't give a shit.
First off, this didn't happen in America. It happened in Australia. Second off, it could be a deep fake.
We can't count on the puppies.
We need to motivate women to no balls men, and so there needs to be footage of the puppies. I realized dying.
As I was saying this, I'm like, we just need the ultimate emotional heartstring thing and as I was
kill
saying
all
it,
the dogs.
No, as I was saying it, I was like, we need, and then it dawned on me, I was like, we need a short white girl with blue eyes and pigtails, fucking Greta, and I was like, they beat me to it.
Yep.
I gotta pee.
Some people have been doing this game a while.
This is another thing. Respect the game that they have, You don't have to respect the left. You don't have to respect these overt commie nonsense motherfuckers, but respect the game that they have, because they do. And if you don't, this is the kind of thing, oh man, the left eats its own. And then when I start asking people about the left eating their own, all of a sudden it becomes pretty clear that the left is not eating their own, right? Which is why I overtly just say the left doesn't eat their own, right? And the right does. Oh no, Don, the right doesn't do this. We take active political figures, we take active entertainment figures, and we rip them to pieces, right? And the left will find Nancy Pelosi drunk, 95 years old, having already done a century worth of damage to the country, and go, okay, it's time to get rid of you. And then we all clap like seals and go, the left eats their own.
Yeah, no. The people they're eating, we're never going to be on their side at the end of the day anyway. And, it's a very absurd thing to have to explain to people, because we want to believe that's true, because we want to, as you were saying earlier, we want to start every video with we're winning and this is how, and it's just not quite true.
Indeed. And this is, this is the problem is it's easy to facially say, everything is a lie. Right. And for a lot of people who get into what is going on that we're talking about in general here, they very quickly come to that being true. And then when you start pushing them on things that they accept most of their lives, right, the left eats their own, right? Well, but they do. Well, but they don't, right? Yes, Barack Obama will be hated one day, but he will be dead by that day. They're not destroying something that is actively pushing for them. They're destroying someone who's been dead for 50 years. Who cares?
And this is why, when you look at the NatSec Dem generation, Brookings, your Susan Hennessy's, your Benjamin Witts, and all these kinds of people, these are the people that, remember like Clisby's book and whatever, they will never admit that they like socialism or communism. They will pretend that AOC doesn't exist, because they come from an era where if you're good, it's okay to be a socialist as long as you call it anything but socialism. And the far left-wing folks respect this. This has just always been tradecraft. And while, some of the older people look at AOC saying the loud part, the quiet part out loud and go, that's fucking retarded. Well, you know what? Correct in private, praise in public. You don't see them, turning knives on each other.
On that note, what came of I saw Dawn's tweet like last week where it was like Pelosi saying the quiet part out loud. Was that just this? Was that
Obama?
Yep. Was that just? I mean, I hate to be the boomer. Say it was all Obama, because to me,
thanks Obama.
To me, that's just as bad as Q if Trump's still in charge. What was that? Was that just a slip, or the Obama plan?
Well, that was. I mean, that is exactly what I threw out there. Is she saying the quiet part out loud, or is she just crazy? Right. And the problem being somewhat that, if you don't think Obama is still involved, right, whether or not he is the massive string pulling conspiracy theory, blah, 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 doesn't really matter. The man is involved.
He still has clout.
Right. He is probably their single greatest accomplishment in the past 50 years by far. And so that guy didn't get turned away from anything when he walked out of the White House. That guy can still walk into any left-wing powerhouse and hand down dictates, regardless of whether or not they listen to everything. However, do I think that he is the spider at the center of the web that is pulling all of the strings? No, that's not how the left works. Right. That's not how the left works, and it's never like think more terrorist cells, less king. All right.
Yeah.
And he might be a big one, but he's still not the king.
And him and Hillary hate each other just as much as everyone else does. They just praise in public, correct in private.
Yeah. And they're very aware, right? Like, dear Secret Service, I'm not saying to do this, but if Obama was assassinated tomorrow, the left would not suddenly give up and go away.
Yeah. Listen, Bin Laden left standing orders, okay, that Biden will never get assassinated. Obama was with them from day one. They're made men. They're fine.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, that is weird, right? Never assassinate them. But I mean, that was a stupid thought. I'm retarded. Yeah, I just so the director of the National Institutes of Health just stepped down.
Mm-hmm.
Or guess not just stepped down sometime
Yesterday,
today.
I think.
All right, well, fuck you. But that's interesting, I guess.
Well, so this is another thing. This goes straight to don't count your losses as wins. The guy that is, and I don't know how the right hasn't learned this yet, right? So we want General Milley fired. Okay, then what? Right? Because if you fire General Milley, here's what's going to happen. He is going to.
He's going to get a job at Brookings.
Right? He's going to go to the Brookings Institute, and what he is going to do is give speeches that is mostly for money laundering purposes, for paying him as a retirement, $100,000 an hour, and he's going to go out and talk about how the terrible right wing in this country, with all their white rage, are the people who had him removed from his capability to serve this country. And if only we had managed that white rage a little bit better, then he could still be out there doing good things for the country, and he will be a recruiting tool. You want to do something with Milley?
That's exactly what happened to Vindman. I forget if it's Brookings or Lawfare, but they're the same fucking organization, just different names. Right. And that's where he went. And you know what? He didn't get thrown into Brig. Okay. Nothing ever happened to him. He got a cushy job at the same places all the other Obama administration, when the Obama administration went out of power, they went to Brookings. They went places like Brookings. That was their golden parachute. And that was just like them on paid vacation leave for the entire term of Trump's presidency. And then they're back in. Suddenly, as soon as Biden gets elected, Susan Hennessy leaves Brookings and Lawfare, goes back to DOJ.
Clapper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lied to Congress.
Yep.
Under oath.
Overtly.
Yep.
Not kind of, not maybe, not, well, he sort of is a little white lie. He sort of sidestepped. No. He went, yeah, we're not capturing any of that American crap. That guy lost being the head of the CIA, moved over to being a commentator for CNN in about 0.1 seconds. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, we really destroyed that guy. If you believe for a minute that he doesn't have sway in the intel community, you're wrong, right? He is still just doing what he was doing. And you want to cause a problem for these people? Stop letting them shuffle their pieces around the board so they're still useful. Take that moron Clapper and send him over to Gitmo. All right.
Yeah. And the same thing will happen with Milley and Clapper and all that stuff, because we've seen it happen before. And the fact of the matter is, as long as I don't know if Sarah Isgur is still in this position. I think she might have gone probably with the rest of the Obama guys are right back in power. But Sarah Isgur, if I'm not mistaken, was a DOJ senior executive service, and as she was collecting that paycheck, she was working, and she's a supposed Republican, but we know that means rhino, but she was one of the people working in the back end of CNN, facilitating all of these spooks coming out of the intelligence agency and in the media. And, there's nothing other to call that than fascism. That's all the senior executive service does, is sits around and says, how can we make corporate policy and state policy look the same? And that's all they do.
I wish George Carlin and Bill Hicks were still alive. Remember Operation, remember Mockingbird? Yeah. Mm-hmm. We don't even do that anymore. We just take the heads and we just put them in the studio, and they're like, and we're here with James Clapper. And he's like, listen, there's no puppets. They're taking dictation from here. And Anderson Cooper is part of Mockingbird. No, they just we are one step away from just the news cameras being at the NSA headquarters and them just being like, this is what's happening.
Are we? Do we know that's not already happening?
That's called Al Jazeera and Doha Station.
Oh, Jesus.
Because if I remember correctly, it was General Electric and basically a bunch of NSA contractors who went over to Doha and set them up in NSA.
Yeah,
I mean, at what point are we killed because we're suspected deep state? At what point do any of our unhinged listeners murder us thinking that we're misinformation agents?
Well, welcome to the problem, right? Because so much of
we're all feds on the internet.
Exactly, man. You have no idea how many people I've had come to me have been like, "You're a Fed," and I'm like, "Really? I am a Fed?"
If I am not getting paid.
Right. First of all, I need those Fed bucks. So, federal government, you owe me a lot of money.
Yeah.
But people the people who are opposing, and make no mistake, there's some good reason for this, but the people who are opposing what is going on are often some of the most paranoid people on earth. So, like, someone decided I took down a stream of me at January 6th, and that was enough. I had a 30 comment thread in my comment section that was like, Don's a Fed, and we know because of all these reasons. And basically, it all came down to there was this stream, and he took it down. So I just linked the stream and went, I took this down. But you know what? Who knows how many people saw that I was a Fed? Who knows?
I liked when you took a break and they came out and they were like, he's been recalled to HQ.
Right? Oh my God.
Yeah. I had people reach out to me when you were like an unscheduled break, and people are like, what's going on with Don? And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, just watch this video. And I was like, I'll do you one better. Don, what's going on, buddy? Man, I've been sick, and I think I just need to take a break. I'm really tired from it all. Yeah, I get you. Where's Don? Here's a screenshot. Don said he's sick and he's taking a tired break. When I do that too. Yeah. So I think that's what's going on. Really? Yeah. I literally just. Is that a normal thing to take a break from streaming every day? Yeah. You get really tired.
What, you have never taken a day off work? Whoever you are, that's
they're like, what do you mean? You didn't show up to work on Saturday? Are you a Fed? It's Saturday.
But this is unironically how it is.
I know.
Right?
I know.
Mm-hmm. Like there is a whole subsection of the internet, I found out, dedicated to the idea that I am a Fed, and I was like, really?
I mean, at least you have that much of a following. I don't even get people overtly calling me a Fed because no one cares enough. If people were getting together and saying you're a Fed, at least I'd be like, so you watch the program,
right?
Yeah. There is not just about anyone that I've ever tried to explain what the senior executive service is that has not looked me in the face and just been like, so what agency do you work for? Like, how could you notice? Like, it's not hard to figure out how government works. Like, there's a plum book, there's, they publish stuff, and you can read these, as Alex Jones would say, you could read documents. And of course that would require you to understand all of the euphemisms that government uses for things. But once you kind of get that down, you can pretty much figure out how a command and control structure works, how the hierarchy works, who answers to who, how this person says some very vague policy translates in someone else going, holy shit, I got the green light to go full balls retard socialism over here. It's not hard to figure out. But, I tell one person, hey, there's the senior executive service that they're not elected. There's nothing in our Constitution that says they should exist. And the first thing I get is, well, so clearly you're CIA because you know about them.
It's like when people ask, they're like, well, then Tommy, how do you get all these guests? And I'm like, I tell everyone the secret. All right. A little fucking inside baseball here. You go to your search engine of choice and you enter their name, and then you enter contact information. And you'll often find an email. What if it's a company with multiple emails? Find all of them, customer service, PR, blah, blah, blah. And then you copy and paste a message where you say, hey, I have a podcast where I talk to a lot of people about all different things. Would you be so kind to come on here? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they don't. So for every, how come you got this guy? Well, for every person you're not seeing, how come you didn't get Henry Kissinger? Because he won't respond to my emails. But if I did get him, my response would be Henry Kissinger, contact information.
Right.
That's it.
This is part of this to absolutely piss off people is elite theory is popular, and not for no reason, right? There are good reasons to listen to this. On the other hand, the implication of what you're doing is that at least some of these elites are touchable, right? The general populace can talk to them, as opposed to they literally, not figuratively, live in ivory towers with guards and they'll never talk to anybody and blah, blah, blah. And that's just a misunderstanding of human beings, but it's where we are, right? Oh my God, how could you possibly get a hold of this guy? Well, like, I emailed him and he said, sure.
Turns out life isn't high school cliques.
Right. Who knew? But it's where we are.
Now, Dick Cheney might actually be in an ivory bunker. Like, I'll concede that point.
With 3 hearts and 4 lungs.
It's that, but it's also, there might even be something deeper about it. And it's like, what it does is it brings to light, like, oh man, like, you could probably crawl out of whatever hole you're in with a little not to sound like a boomer, with a little work ethic where it's like, no, this retard was able to get in touch with, the guy that invented the COVID vaccine, which means that might imply to you subconsciously, oh, maybe I can do X,
this is exactly why when the left sees someone like you and your idea for curing depression, they view that as a mortal threat. And the way the way you verify this is you see all the leftists on Twitter posting things like, and I know the meme was posted on the server, I saw someone my age being incredibly talented, my day has been ruined, because you serve as an example of them being a piece of shit. So you have to be destroyed.
You're a portal into which I can see what I could be. When you see someone that loses a ton, I see someone that loses a ton of weight, and I'm like, well, I'm 30 now. I'm not 18. And it's like, no, here's a fat guy who's 50 and he just dropped a bunch of weight, and by 55 he had abs. You don't like that because you're like, if I really wanted that, I could. If I really fucking put no, it's not your metabolism. It's fuck, you're right. God damn it, you're right.
The 0.01% of you that do actually have a thyroid problem and can't get an 8-pack, no one cares, right? When you weigh 450 pounds at 5'1", that's not your fucking thyroid. All right.
What are you talking about? Right? It's it is, but it's that thing.
I'm eating my 200-piece chicken McNugget meal right now, and the problem is that my thyroid sucks.
No, breadsticks are endless.
Jamie, people like to put to Jamie Dimon, right? The fucking head of Chase, where it's like, well, his dad was really rich and he came from like, the Greek elite, and you're like, sure, that is. What about Lloyd Blankfein, who came from like the Jewish ghetto in New York, like 5 kids to a bedroom. You don't like that because that shows you what you could be. And hey, there's no affirmative action in banking. All right. He didn't get the job because he was this or that. It's truly maybe that's not the best example because they're all ruthless and drink children's blood out of the woods. But
just go to Ben Carson. It's the one that everybody uses.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Maybe I should release a sex tape with me and Ben Shapiro. At very least, the court hearings will get me more subscribers.
Yes,
because that's how low I am right now. That truly, there is no such thing as bad PR. I mean, truly.
Hopefully, with someone yelling "Get on kill stream" or something like that, because when you get that kind of drama,
maybe I should release a teaser. Maybe I should release a teaser, like a 10-second teaser, and it's me. It's a deep fake of me, Ben Shapiro, and Henry Kissinger.
And we need a bogus lawsuit.
And it says Pornhub,
bring in a celebrity lawyer.
It says Pornhub, and it also has a watermark that says Live Leak. People are like, "What is this?" Or not. I mean, or not. I could just put out better content. And I'm directly contradicting my point of like, you don't like it because it shows you can work hard. And in the same breath. Right. In the same breath, I'm like, I need a snuff film.
We got to go propaganda operations here. And then spliced in there, people get sucked in thinking that they're getting the drama. And then spliced in there, it cuts to footage in Australia of just dog genocide. And just boom, out of nowhere, left field, you get hit with those fields.
Maybe we should deep fake like Schindler's List or something, or the Devil's Arithmetic. But we just deep fake it to where like all the Jews are just dog furries, just people, right? Like Eamon Goth just like shooting like a furry. It's all black and white.
Well, people would cheer that on. Okay, we need it to look like actual dogs. All right, that's how we capture the women demographic that we need to go around, basically handing out flowers and saying you have no balls because you haven't stacked commies yet.
I mean, I honestly think what we need to start doing is just taking some scientific principles and attacking them because they're white males.
Network analysis and network disruption.
I mean, Isaac Newton. I mean, really start going at like the basics to where people will not accept these laws, equal and opposite reaction. I mean, the airbag was invented by a white guy. Like, all these things. Really start hammering. I mean, maybe you could go really in and say ARPANET was created by a bunch of white guys. Internet is bad. That might snuff the entire fire out at the base.
Maybe.
Black dude, here's the thing. Here's the thing that you don't understand is that once upon a time, all right, Al Gore he was smoking
Inventing
some
the internet.
DMT.
Algorithm. That's why it's called an algorithm.
Yeah, he was working on some tubes, and he had like a psychedelic phase, and that's when Black Jesus showed up and explained to him how you could make these tubes transfer data. All right, and that's how we got the internet.
Talking to the Coca-Cola polar bears, which were inconveniently, truthfully melting on an iceberg, and he said, "Listen, there's a series of tubes."
Did you know that Coca-Cola polar bears double as Coca-Cola death squads up there?
It's a real problem, and I wish people would take it more seriously.
A bunch of snuff films of
keep your shotgun with you when you're pissing up there.
Polar bears and like polar bears in an Al Qaeda cave, just like reading off a script and then decapitating someone. When you watch these advertisements this fall, remember who you're supporting, and it just shows them just gunning down little tiny baby polar bears in Pepsi shirts. That's what we need, man.
It was a false flag the whole time.
That's what we need, man.
Always Coke gunning down the polar bears.
That's what we need.
The Hegelian dialectic. You don't understand, man.
They bring in Pepsi.
We're the same.
They make you drink Pepsi so that they can bring in Coca-Cola and you'll accept it. It's what we need is, I want more than anything, not even like a political bent. I want like the Super Bowl commercials to get hacked with a deep fake. Like a deep fake of
this is so coming.
Oh, it's I mean, what would it be? It would be fucking it would be who's like someone harmless. It'd be like Kevin Hart just looking into the camera, and he's just, I don't know. And as it zooms out, there's just a baby Labrador retriever. And he just, puts like a fire poker into its throat, and then it just says like Gucci.
Yeah, listen, if I was the chief propaganda officer of the right wing, of my base right wing, I would be working around the clock to get Hillary's Benghazi sex tape playing at the Super Bowl. That's where I would be going.
It's her in the sex tape, and like outside, she was on the top floor of the embassy.
No, first it has to have
muzzle
like
flashes.
First it has to have like the vets and everything that were there and shit, and being like, yeah, man, when things were going off, Hillary went home. All right. She went home and she took the night off like it was just normal. And we thought that she meant like her home in the CONUS, but no, it was the Benghazi sex tape. You drop it.
As things were popping off, and it shows a guy, and you see like there's like a shadow over his face, and his voice is distorted, and he's like, as things were popping off, Hillary was getting off. And it just shows Hillary riding like some Mujahideen member or something.
It's Big Mike. No, it's Big Mike.
It's Big Mike.
Exactly.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh no, it's a big black. It's a big black Jewish guy named Benghazi.
Joan River, I think it was, that where there's footage of her like half lit and everything. Just like, we all know, all right, we all know that Michelle is a tranny. Like, he's got to have that clipped in there.
Jesus, right? Yeah, we need it to look like, and it can't be overt, like,
because that's real stuff that you can clip in there to give it credibility.
Oh yeah, truly muddy the waters, and then you could even like hijack some like Project Veritas style, because it can't be like perfect 4K video. It has to be like hidden camera stuff, but then it also has to be stuff that like no one understands the implications of, but they know it's bad. Like, Islam was right about women, and no one really knows what's bad about it. It's just.
Yeah, multiple hooks for each crowd. You got to have some weird ass esoteric shit for the people into like the the schizo posting.
It's a fucking CCTV video of like Alex Jones.
I'm gonna piss.
Okay, it's like Alex Jones like meeting behind a bar with Buzz Aldrin, and he's handing him like an envelope, and you don't even address it or what it is. It's just, what does that imply? It's just,
yep. What does that imply? Like, what's behind the scenes here? And that's like getting into like Lovecraft and letting someone's imagination go to the places and see what's going on.
Let them fill the cosmic horror. And then it's just some stuff that you don't even know if it's code. It's just Trump and Clinton and Hillary Clinton talking. And Trump's going like, I don't like the 8-piece. And she's going, the 12-piece was better before they took away the ranch. People are like, what the fuck does that mean? But it's actually just some bullshit small talk in Air Force One. About
some
McDonald's.
Staffer in the background just walks by and he just flashes this at you, like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just also, oh man, like it's almost like a zeitgeist style film. Like it's teased as zeitgeist. It's Zeitgeist Part 4, and it's just like, it's just like Whoopi Goldberg, and you see her just like it has to be a perfect deep fake, and who's the cooking lady, Martha Stewart. It's just her. It's just her reciting like, I don't know, some Aleister Crowley shit as it's panning out, and she's on the set, and it pans to the set, and everyone at the live studio.
You're aware she did a cooking show with Snoop Dogg, right?
Yeah. No, but it's that. It shows her. It shows.
I just wanted to make sure you're aware.
That's what we need. The deep fake cuts to her, and it's Martha Stewart, and it pans to the live studio audience, but it's all just Guantanamo Bay prisoners. And they're all in their orange jumpsuits, and it pans back to her, and it's Snoop Dogg saying "for Rizzle" as they just drop hamsters into a blender. Like, just really break the mind of people watching. That's what we need.
And then it just cuts to like Marie Abramovich, the actual witch lady that, teaches spirit cooking.
Yeah.
And that's someone that actually exists. And then we're back into the realm of reality. And
but it's her.
We've tied the whole narrative together.
But it's her wearing a MAGA hat. and she's like, listen, this is all art, but Jesus Christ, she's like, close the borders, and it just pans to like Haitians running across the border. Yeah, that's what we really twist. Trump is actually a social justice warrior, and it pans to Hillary, and that's what we need is really. And the thing is people will question, well, who's behind this? What is the purpose of this video? Nothing.
And this gets into what I've been trying to tell the right for, as long as I've been, shit posting among, like, say, the liberalist groups and whatnot, which is what led me to eventually Don's group, is like, we have to stop caring about being right, and we have to start caring about rhetoric and just what moves the needle. Right.
Yeah. Just purely emotion. Just Greta Thunberg screaming at a Haitian immigrant. And then she puts a sawed-off shotgun in their mouth and blows it off and says, closed borders means a strong nation. Like, that's what you need. It's just
good for the environment.
Really turn the fucking cocks upside down.
International travel is hurting Mother Gaia.
No. You got to go straight nationalism.
No.
She's like,
you have to talk to them in their language.
No. You're talking about going with language. I'm talking about break their mind. Just break their mind. It's just Greta Thunberg talking about how, like, the carried interest loophole is good for America.
You can't mind break somebody with just propaganda. Okay,
you have to
add the biochemical part to that. But and that that gets into moral bioenhancement and kind of what we see. That it's what gets them into the propaganda in the first place. It's what makes the propaganda effective. It's why schizos aren't technically wrong when they talk about the flicker rate of fucking television.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about even darker than that. Just like deep fake D-Day, but it's all Ronald McDonald.
You can't break someone's mind with propaganda. You gotta go a little bit at a time.
Yeah, the problem with what you're going for is that we live in a society where that would just be considered comedy.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. Too far, it would be like, oh, this is edgy.
You're actually the next Charlie Day, because
I wonder if we could actually do a social experiment and be like, if you used a leftist icon and then flash like a fashion company at the end, will they accept it as art? It's like you go to like a California, like it's like an art fucking show, and it's like an empty chair on top of a banana, and they're like, it's brilliant. Like, what if you took AOC and she's wearing a strap on and she's fucking a baby penguin to death, and then it just says $5 footlong Subway. Would they accept it as art?
This is just 4chan. This is just 4chan.
Yeah, seriously. So if you want to do that sort of thing, what you really need to do is go get like the Black Lives Matter mixed with McDonald's logo, right? And
there you go.
You get the
BL arches.
Yeah, right. Because they did some bullshit like that, right? Go get that. And then play some I'm loving it, right? And have it fade into all those PETA slaughterhouse videos, right? The left will everyone involved in this video will instantly hate each other.
That's genius. That right there is a stroke of genius. And somebody, I know there are people with me making video editing skills that will watch this. Get on it. Because that will work. That will work. He's not wrong.
What it has to be is like a video of the head of BLM looking at like people in gay pride, and then just it needs to be like a hot mic. You can just see one of them go, God, I'm so sick of these faggots. Like,
that is also the kind. This is why like the right wing needs to learn how to think subversive.
Really start
the way
pulling,
the left does,
start
because
pulling the
shit
columns
works.
into each other. Yeah.
Yes. You find every crack in the indie enemies coalition, and you take a hammer and chisel to it every time.
We need Michelle Obama on saying, I have been starting rumors online about my cock for years in hopes that I would sort of soften the blow when I did come out as a tranny. But every turn the left says I'm not a tranny. Why do they hate me for who I am? That's what we need.
That's a bit harder to pull off.
You're
right on your angle. You got
that's kind of a PhD course. Well, yeah.
Well, this is the thing is you can go out of your way to create some hypothetical craziness where we get Michelle Obama to come out and say the quiet part out loud, or you could just take what they're already doing, right?
Yeah, but that makes too much sense.
You have to move with the wind blowing the grass. Okay. You got to take the momentum and the inertia that's already there, and you have to work with it. I mean, maybe if you're CIA or you're, the power base establishment, and you can fund, some case officers, a propaganda operations officer, blah, 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 and all these people, and be like, listen, this project over here, we're going to dump a budget at it, use it, don't use it, buy blow, whatever. The money's going to be there. You can move the needle from nothing to something, right? And they'll fund that all day. If you're in the open source intelligence game, if you're trying to, work in the actual populist movements, you got to look at what the populace is moving with, and you got to figure out, how to either, amplify that or knock it or walk it over territory.
Yeah.
Maybe like a deep fake undercover video of like the heads of ExxonMobil.
Really attached to these deep fakes.
Shut your fucking mouth. It's the only way it would, or I mean, fuck you. It's you have to have like the head of ExxonMobil saying on a hidden camera that, and you'd have to, shift it so the fashion's different, so it looks like it's from the 70s, and it's them saying, we're going to start a 30-year PR campaign for this thing that our think tanks came up with. We call it global warming and climate change. And that way we've timed it so that it will be overpowering just by the time the world's oil reserves runs out. And that's when we'll bring in the green technology and the batteries. You need to have climate change posted as a think tank pet project by Big Oil. Neither of you seem interested. So, I think Don's frozen.
Someone's actually kind of done. When we get back to, I forget the
David,
guy.
Is Don frozen?
I think he is frozen on there.
Rest in peace, Don.
Either that or he's doing a really specific bit right now, and he's really dedicated to it.
If he's doing it, he's doing very good.
But he's
frozen.
It's frozen.
Or he's dead. Yeah.
Hopefully he reconnects with us.
He'll be fine.
But God, lost my train of thought there. For
ExxonMobil, climate change.
All right, ExxonMobil. So the guys, yeah. All right, so I forget the guy's name, but it was a big deal when it happened. All these academics and whatnot that were publishing false, well, I shouldn't say false papers, but they were taking like Mein Kampf and Hitler stuff, and they were rewording it, and they were getting it peer reviewed. You remember? I forget the guy's names, but you remember what I'm talking about, right? It was kind of a big deal. I think Rogan had him on, or whatever, if I'm not mistaken. But like that kind of thing has already happened, and yeah, we could be doing a lot more of that. Problem is that requires either you have an academic who already has tenure and they're not afraid of rocking the boat or whatever, which is kind of, they exist, but they're hard to find. Or B, you're an academic that's about to completely bomb any chance of a career you're going to have. And you're going to damage your opportunities if you try to play that game. But yeah, that's an avenue that has worked in the past.
Maybe we need to start a campaign about some misogynistic patriarchal thing about how COVID actually stands for cocks on vaginas is divine, meaning that two genders is what God wants. The COVID will be done tomorrow.
I would be shocked if 4chan hasn't already tried that, but
is Don
good meme, but I don't know if
we should probably make sure Don's alive.
Yeah, we should probably do that. I mean, maybe the internet died again. clearly our internet is superior.
Ours is fine. So
we're on the DARPA net because
so
we're the feds.
I offer no apologies. I offer no apologies for our internet working. I just don't. I just fucking Don's not replying to my text. So
Al Gore has blessed us with superior tubes, and
I guess Don is heading back to Langley early.
He has been recalled to HQ. You
know what? It's when I hear people thinking that Don's a Fed or that I'm an Air Force recruiter, and it makes me realize, oh, some conspiracies truly have no basis in reality, but because they don't know me and I'm just a face on a screen, it's very easy to, like you said, kind of Lovecraftian. You sort of fill in the blanks on your own. It either means, oh, no conspiracies are real because I am now seeing. It's like or if I am a Fed, that only has two possible outcomes. It either means the government is the state is so pervasive that they've already covered everyone else, so now they're reaching down to little low-hanging fruit like me, or they're so desperate and inept that they're hitting me up because they couldn't get anyone else. Either way, me being a Fed is nothing but an insult to the government.
That's why I say just freaking joke at it, and at the end of the day, in a world where we can all identify to be whatever the fuck we want, identify as a higher rank than whatever Fed you're talking to.
I get brought in for questioning, and I'm like, "Do you want to keep your fucking job, son?"
Like,
how deep undercover I am right now.
This is the thing that one of those things that the Feds aren't really thinking about is the more they just blatantly cover their own ass nonstop CIA. Just they can't stop it. They can't correct in public at all. They can't be seen doing it. As they elicit more mafia and mafia-like behavior and embrace a strategic level of vagueness, it allows people like me to say, come along, and guess what? I don't have to claim I'm a CIA guy if people just believe it. And if I'm able to deny that and people believe it anyway, and I'm able to wave around some kind of, authority that doesn't exist without violating or impersonating any laws, guess what? You're creating in a very obscure environment where anyone can pretend to be some kind of vague Fed and manipulate some schizos or some people that are just looking for that Q white knight savior. And you're just creating that environment where anyone can do that now because you've normalized the federal response to anything being this gangster. Well, we don't talk shop in public, thing. Yeah. So anyone that appears to be that kind of guy, well, clearly that's a Fed. And if I listen to him, then I'm listening to the regime. And so, congratulations, everyone's a Fed on the internet now.
Yeah.
Don, how was did your handler show up?
Yeah, that is exactly what happened, actually.
Yeah.
I needed to, they don't always knock. That's all I'm saying.
Quick phone call with Langley.
It's sorry, but you both have to die. Yeah. It's been good, guys, but that's it.
Fucking cool beans with me, man. It's whatever the state needs. Sig Heil! That's
Indeed.
A good clip. But
victory.
That's a good clip.
I've given all of my life to the Fourth Reich.
Spotify, why won't you sign me? Well, the only clip we found of you is whatever the state needs. Sig Heil. Okay.
I mean, I think that's why they will sign you.
I'm about to say, well, that just shows I'm willing to play ball. More than anything, right? Shows I'm not going to be a nail.
Listen, we're all rational actors.
Nothing would be funnier though if it did come out in like 10 years that all three of us were Feds, but we didn't know that each other were Feds.
Well, I mean, that's pretty standard practice.
I know.
Yeah, that's not unusual at
all. I know. I think the biggest whoopsie is going to be when we realize like 18 of the 19 hijackers were Feds and they were all planning on busting each other, but none of them wanted to break face.
Well, once again, Daniel Hopsicker and George Webb talks about this a lot, wrote a wonderful book about, the same kind of Iran-Contra folks you know, and I've talked about this before, taking Arab royalty and hooking them up with diplomatic passports and teaching them how to fly, because guess what? If they teach Arabs how to fly drugs for them, Barry Seal doesn't get caught throwing weed out the back.
That's true.
Oh, man.
That's true. Man, what if the 9/11 hijackers were actually just flying drugs and they were flying them direct?
They're still running drugs out of that airport. Nobody gives a fuck. It's been happening for decades and decades. It's been an open secret for decades, and nobody gives a fuck.
Oh, no one does.
There's some conspiracy folks on the internet that do, but you know, everyone else is just like, oh yeah, that's what CIA does.
I kind of like Tim Dillon. It's y'all good for like 9 more minutes, and then I gotta go get some food because I'm a fat ass. We'll wrap it up at 3 hours tight. Shut up, Don.
I was just gonna say I gotta get out of here soon. So yes.
I was thinking of what Tim Dillon said, where someone's like, you know, the whole thing is so corrupt. It's so intertwined with military industrial interests and banking and fraud and, you know, rules for thee and not for me. What can I do about it? And he goes, have you ever had peach melba? The person's like, I think. And he's like, you get some peach, a little ice cream, and you heat it up so it just melts a little bit. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you should have some peach melba. He goes, what does that have to do? He goes,
settle down.
He goes, you're never fixing any of it. So enjoy some peach melba.
Sit on the bar stool, drink a beer, watch the game. Okay. The information will paralyze you.
I will say this.
Look into the abyss.
I will say this. I do think we have a somewhat entertaining future when nation states start genetically engineering monsters. It'll be the new proxy war. Instead of having to like raise an army.
Pokemon, yeah.
I mean, truly, what happens when Japan and America start sending Godzilla to each other's shores?
Do you know what happens? I finally start saying Alex Jones was right about everything, because it's been a good year or two now that I have been saying as soon as we have fish people, Alex Jones is right about everything. And that will probably be the primary thing that happens.
Stand by. Animal-human hybrids in China. You know, that already exist. They're in the tanks. You can see them. They don't understand what's happening to them. They've lived their whole life.
They put their hand up against it's like a turtle you see in the aquarium. They put their hand up against the glass and you know they're suffering. Listen, there are people being grown in pigs inside of cows. They're producing spider milk or spider silk.
They've never even been taught a language.
They don't know anything. You want to know why, Joe? I'll tell you why. They're chimeras. They're not human. They're alien. They don't have human rights. It's what's coming, Joe. You're getting the crap.
You know what, though? We may all be looking at this wrong. Maybe this is why they need to vaccine everybody, because once the vaccine starts giving you scales and horsehair, we'll all think it's normal if it happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I love the argument where someone says it modifies your RNA and thus you are technically corporate property because you are now patented.
You are a genetically modified organism.
Right.
Like, listen, if they're powerful enough to modify your DNA and then say you're your corporate IP, then they're powerful enough to just knock down your door and take you anyway. They don't need Hitler didn't need to go, technically your property. They just did it. It was the iron fist in the velvet
subject of the king.
Never skip over the mandate for internal consistency for these people, right? So as long as you're all citizens out there doing whatever you want, maybe they can't do all this stuff to you. But if you're a genetically modified organism that belongs to Pfizer, then they can.
And then the 5G is going to activate the programming and the chip and yeah.
If it came out that there were animal-human hybrids and 5G did turn on and kill everyone with the vaccine, I mean, would we be doomers to go, oh, it really is all fucking done? Like, or at that point, are you a realist? At that point,
you know, how many people are vaccinated in the United States? 140 million?
They say 75%, but I also never know what is the actual percentage.
Yeah. Well, and so there it is the question. If we lose 75% of the population, is it all over? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, but I do believe in my argument. When I was on Stu Peters and I was like, man, the comments don't like me. And David's like, well, you argued against depopulation. I still think my argument holds true. If it is a depopulation program, no one will be alive to say I told you so.
But you're trying to be right instead of going with the rhetoric and going
and
with whatever
building the
pushes
platform.
the needle.
I should have just moved with the punches. I should have said,
this is-
I think it's more than
the right
depopulation.
memes on the actually guy, and then just goes right back to being.
I should have pushed it further.
Right
I should have pushed it further. I should have said, I think it's a repopulation program. We're all going to start shitting out babies. They want 100 billion. The Georgia Guidestones had it wrong. They want 500 billion humans, not 500 million. They want more people because the pedophiles love all the pictures.
It's just not us, so they got to depopulate us to make room for the clones. No, the clones they got underground, they're going to bring them up now.
They're repopulating. They're giving the vaccine to liberals, knowing that they'll start having 10
Look up the Great
each.
Replacement, New Zealand. Christ, what?
Oh, there it is, right? It is not just not depopulation. What we're trying to do is create enough humans so that we can colonize the moon.
No, what we're trying to do is we knew that only liberals will take it. So just like Muslims having 10 kids in a new European country, so after a generation, they'll outvote them. Maybe there really were 80 million Biden voters. Maybe they're just going, they're all going to have 10 kids who are brainwashed. They won't need to kill us.
100 million.
China is creating the death corps of Krieg right now. They just have hundreds of millions of just being grown in. It's fetuses in bio bags, and in 5 years they're going to have weaponized flashlights. They're going to be killing people. All right. Listen, the Havana syndrome is just because they haven't got the las guns at full power yet.
I like where David takes it and goes, I will double checkmate you. I say it's crazy.
You try to outpace.
I'm like 9/11 was an inside job, and David's like the missiles were launched from the Statue of Liberty. It's like, oh Jesus, right?
No, you don't understand. Richard Bissell had the missiles already in the building. Okay, 9/11, the towers were the silos. They were actually covering up the silos.
They were the silo. It's like again, Tim Dillon.
The building just tipped sideways, went up, came back down. That's what happened. God damn it!
Like a single mortar shot just comes straight. It's like what Tim Dillon says. When someone says that the planes were holograms, you say 9/11 didn't happen. The towers are still there.
You're right.
You take it and they bring it to 11 and you break the dial. They go, Herman Cain died from COVID. You go, Herman Cain's still alive. He's on Sean Hannity right now.
Making it look like the towers aren't there anymore. We'll try and walk into it. It's there.
We never landed on the moon. We are on the moon right now. We never landed on Earth. You just take it and just bring it up to 12. That's what we need. Maybe, I don't know, acceleration. Maybe we will be. That's what we need is a Super Bowl commercial of like a new, like the Tesla fucking Roadster. It's like 0 to 60 in half a second. And it's like accelerationism. It's good. And then it just shows clips of BLM burning down Palo Alto or something.
Listen, you don't choose to be an accelerationist. You know that lifestyle comes to you.
We need to make it someone just really abstraction. Like, yeah, I think Kevin Hart putting a hot poker into a Labrador puppy's throat as it says Gucci. I think that's what we need.
And that is the perfect end to an episode because we have less than a minute here and I actually need to be gone.
I actually need to be gone too because I want to get some food. And what's the name of this episode?
What the fuck sounds like a good name.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's always a classic.
What the fuck? It's too easy. It's too easy.
Let's see. World War I plague rats.
Nikki's nipples accelerationism.
Nikki's nipples acceleration.
That's the one. That's the one.
I think 9/11 didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Nikki's nipples did 9/11.
Nikki's nipples did 9/11. Big Mac, Gucci. Yeah. We're reaching now. We'll wrap this one up. Don the Pleb, David O'Neill the Pleb. Don's in my basement. David will be soon enough. I will capture them all.
Excuse me, I'm a patrician.
Okay, I'm playing Pokemon. I will catch them all. Eventually, you will all live in my basement. And with that, Godspeed, everyone. 9/11 didn't happen. The towers are still there.